Chapter 185. The blood-robed pavilion openly exterminated the Golden Wing Academy and left with all the Academy's resources. The thousands of people who had come to participate in the discussion of scriptures could only watch helplessly. At the beginning, Feng Shamo and the Elder of Mountain of Books fought at the gate, so they couldn't leave. Although they could also jump over the wall, when they found that the killers of the blood-robed pavilion only targeted the Academy disciples, they didn't run away. They just stood there and watched. They watched the killers of the blood-robed pavilion slaughter the Academy disciples. They watched He Liangkai get killed. They watched the blood-robed pavilion plunder the resources of the Golden Wing Academy. Among these people, there were either relatives or friends of the Academy disciples, or they were inextricably linked to the Golden Wing Academy. And there were many Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators among them. There were also Spirit Aperture Realm experts like Du Mingxian, Luo Xiuwu, and Lu Yi. If they joined hands, more than half of the killers of the blood-robed pavilion would die here today. However, they didn't make a move. Instead, the Elder of Mountain of Books, a rogue cultivator, made a move, and he was killed by Feng Shamo on the spot. The reason was none other than that they didn't dare to provoke the blood-robed pavilion, a top force. The Tang family dared to provoke them, but in the end, their son was killed, and the new genius Tang Wanqiu narrowly escaped death. Even the Tang family, a first-rate force, was not taken seriously by the blood-robed pavilion, let alone people like them. At this point, the Golden Wing Academy would be removed from the world, and they could only sigh. Alas, where can we scholars settle down from now on? I don't know who the Golden Wing Academy offended. Someone actually dared to invite the blood-robed pavilion to exterminate them. Who knows? A spirit cultivation sect is gone just like that. Today is the first day of the discussion, but in the end, it became the day of extermination. The blood-robed pavilion is indeed a top force in the world. This is just a branch, but it can easily exterminate the Golden Wing Academy. The gap between sects is huge. Look at the genius Tang Hapu of the Tang family. Even after using such a terrifying trump card, he still died in the hands of the black-robed killer. And the Elder of Mountain of Books, it is said that he was at the third level of the spirit astral realm, but he also died in the hands of Feng Shamo who just entered the spirit astral realm. A top force is indeed a top force. It's too high to reach. When this matter spreads out, the blood-robed pavilion will definitely become famous in Donglin County. Then, the crowd left the golden-winged academy that had been soaked in blood. Some of them were chatting happily, some of them were walking expressionlessly, and some of them looked gloomy. For example, Du Mingxian, Luo Xiuwu, and Lu Yi. The three of them had come here to join forces with the Golden Wing Academy to fight against the evil cultivators. Before Lu Luqing died, he had deliberately marked the aura of the 5 evil cultivators. As long as they used the formation, they could roughly locate them. However, the 3 families did not have the confidence to kill him. It was not only because he had the 5 ghost demon corpses, but also because they were afraid of his background. If they wanted to make a move, they had to eliminate all of them, so they wanted to join forces with the other spirit cultivator sects. However, he didn't expect that his first trip would be so unfavorable. Not only was it unfavorable, but he also brought bad luck upon himself. Seeing the Golden Wing Academy being destroyed by the Blood Cloak Pavilion so easily, they felt very uncomfortable. It wasn't because of the Golden Wing Academy, but a feeling of inferiority. In the eyes of those rogue cultivators, they could be said to be bright and beautiful. They were a dignified spirit cultivator sect. However, only they knew that although they were a spirit cultivator sect, they were a third-rate sect at the bottom. Above them, there were still second-rate sects, first-rate sects, and those high and mighty top forces on the world sect ranking. Facing these forces, they had no choice but to lower their heads. Just like today, when the Blood Cloak Pavilion appeared, they tacitly retreated, and they retreated very straightforwardly. Giving in had already become their habit. But they didn't like this feeling. Now that they saw the Golden Wing Academy being destroyed with their own eyes, they were all thinking that one day in the future, would their respective sects also be destroyed like this? Du Mingxuan's face darkened as he said, Brother Luo, Brother Lu, what do you think about today's matter? Luo Xiaowu replied, what can I think? The Golden Wing Academy offended someone they shouldn't have offended. Sooner or later, there will be this calamity. I heard that He Liangkai has been close to a prince of the empire recently. Do you think it has something to do with this? Lu Yi finally said. A strange look flashed across Du Mingxuan's eyes as he said, a small Golden Wing Academy dares to get involved in the internal strife of the empire. They deserve such an outcome. A small Golden Wing Academy? Then aren't we the same? Lu Yi sighed slightly. As soon as he said that, the other two's expressions turned even uglier. Luo Xiaowu said, forget it, we've made a wasted trip today. Let's think about how to deal with the demonic cultivators. My brother's death must be avenged. Lu Yi also said seriously, that's right. Actually, if the three of us personally take action, I'm sure they won't be able to escape. Lu Yi's hatred for Su Lu and the other demonic cultivators was no less than Luo Xiaowu's. His Hao Yi sect had spent countless resources to nurture an array master, but he died just like that. How could Lu Yi let it go? Du Mingxian said, to be on the safe side, we'd better unite with one or two more forces, especially those who hate the demonic cultivators to the core. That's right. Fortunately, the mark Lu Leking left on the demonic cultivators before his death can last for a long time. We don't have to be too hasty. Then, the three went directly to the next force. As for the others, after leaving the Golden Wing Academy, the news that the blood-robed pavilion destroyed the Golden Wing Academy in an instant spread out rapidly as if it had grown wings. Everyone who heard the news turned pale with fright. In Donglin County, it had been a long time since a spirit cultivation sect was destroyed. The name of the blood-robed pavilion suddenly became the most famous sect in Donglin County. In addition, the two most interesting things were about Feng Shamo and Leng Shiqi. Feng Shamo killed the elder of Book Mountain, a famous master in Gang's spirit realm, in front of everyone, which shocked everyone and made everyone know that the new head of the branch was not simple. After some people investigated it, they knew that Feng Shamo was actually the chief personal disciple of the master of the blood-robed pavilion. The master of the blood-robed pavilion put his chief personal disciple in Donglin County. What he wanted to do became the topic of many people's gossip. As for the other person, it was Leng Shiqi. He successively used exquisite swordsmanship, saber skills and demonic cultivation. After resisting Tang Haoquang's shadow, he still killed Tang Hapu, which also shocked everyone. Chapter 186. The Destruction of the Golden Wing Academy. To rogue cultivators, the spirit cultivator sect, which was unreachable in their eyes, was destroyed so casually. This somewhat subverted their understanding. As for those sects that were also third-rate forces, they were all treading on thin ice. They were afraid of provoking someone and following in the footsteps of the Golden Wing Academy. However, for the second-rate and first-rate sects, this matter only slightly surprised them because if they took action, they could also destroy the Golden Wing Academy. However, it was completely different for the Tang family. Some time ago, their eldest son, Tang Heyu, the hope of the family's future revival, died in the hands of Bing Sheng of the Blood Garment Pavilion. This time, the second son, Tang Hapu, died in the hands of the Blood Garment Pavilion's assassins again. It could be said that the Blood Garment Pavilion had cut off the foundation of the Tang family for the next few decades. As for Tang Wanxiu, the concubine's daughter who relied on external objects to forcefully break through to the spiritual pulse realm, she had never been taken seriously by the Tang family's higher-ups. At this point, the Tang family had to face the fact that they were short of manpower, which suddenly pulled them from heaven to hell. Therefore, the Tang family urgently gathered all the higher-ups to discuss this matter. Some said that they wanted to suppress the Blood Garment Pavilion, while others said that they wanted a stable transition. The two sides quarreled fiercely. The assassins of the Blood Garment Pavilion who caused all this had long returned to the pavilion and quickly returned to their normal lives. For example, Leng Shiqi immediately went into his stone room after returning. Firstly, he was cultivating, and secondly, he was healing the injury on his right arm. At this moment, his entire right arm was shrouded in a faint layer of demonic aura. The demonic aura seemed to be eroding the flesh on his arm, but in the blink of an eye, the flesh and blood were reborn again. Ling Shiqi gritted his teeth and did not make a sound. He was using the 9 nether mageweth diagram to heal his injury. This way, not only could he heal quickly, but he could also temper the strength of his right arm. It could be said that he killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Otherwise, pain was inevitable. Fortunately, Ling Shiqi's willpower was strong enough now, so he could completely accept this degree of pain. This continued for more than half a day, and the wound on his right arm had basically healed, but there were still some scars left behind. Ling Shiqi finished his cultivation and put on his clothes. Then, he began to recall the last strike Feng Shanmo had used to kill the old man of books. When he activated the supercilious eye, he clearly saw that the spiritual energy in the old man of books' body was completely normal. However, he couldn't understand why the old man of books would stand still and let Feng Shanmo chop off his head. Ling Shiqi suddenly remembered that there was an indescribable aura at that time. It was not spiritual energy or momentum, but more like some kind of emotion. However, he was too far away to know what it was. After thinking for a long time, Ling Shiqi shook his head with a headache and said to himself, "Alas, Gang's spirit realm is too far away for me. Now I'm not even in the celestial being 4 realms. If I spy on the battle between Gang's spirit realm experts, I'll be overestimating myself. Who is it?" Just as Ling Shiqi was pondering, he suddenly felt a sense of danger. He roared and turned around with his sword in hand. However, there was no one behind him. To his horror, a voice sounded, "You're quite alert." Hearing this voice, Ling Shiqi was shocked. He was not only surprised by how the person came in, but also surprised by why the person came to him. However, he also put down the jade sword in his hand, because the owner of this voice was the head of the sub-pavilion, Feng Shanmo. Disciple Ling Shiqi pays his respects to the head of the sub-pavilion. Ling Shiqi bowed and said. Feng Shanmo's figure appeared in front of Ling Shiqi strangely. With his hands behind his back, he said, "I'm here to ask you something." Ling Shiqi replied, "I'll tell you everything I know." "You, how dare you kill a disciple of the Tang family?" Feng Shanmo said in a meaningful tone. Countless thoughts flashed through Ling Shiqi's mind. He immediately said, "I dare not disobey the head of the sub-pavilion." Feng Shanmo turned his head in surprise and said, well done. I appreciate you more and more." "I dare not." "Okay, let's get down to business. I'm here to fulfill my promise." Ling Shiqi's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. Back then, he had wanted to kill Tang Hepu because of the 10 times reward that Feng Shanmo had mentioned. After everyone returned, everyone who participated in the mission was rewarded according to their contributions. Only Ling Shiqi hadn't received his reward. However, he didn't expect Feng Shanmo to come to him, and it seemed like he came secretly. Feng Shanmo raised 3 fingers and said, "I've said before that the reward for killing a disciple of the Tang family will be doubled, and the reward for killing Tang Hepu will be 10 times. Not only did you kill Tang Hepu, but you also killed 4 disciples of the Tang family. After thinking about it, I've decided to give you 3 rewards. First, give me your identity token." Ling Shiqi took out his identity token. He already knew what Feng Shanmo was going to give him. It was definitely a drop of blood, but he didn't know how much it would be. Feng Shanmo also took out his own identity token. With a swipe of his finger, the number 1000 was drawn into Ling Shiqi's identity token, 1000 drops of blood. Ling Shiqi exclaimed in his heart. He had only received 50 drops of blood from assassinating Bao Pengyi. In other words, this was equivalent to 22-star missions. Feng Shanmo said, "You participated in the mission to destroy the Golden Wing Academy. You could have received 50 drops of blood, but I've rounded it up for you. Thank you, Grand Pavilion Leader." Ling Shiqi thanked him sincerely. Now, he knew how precious the drop of blood was. Not only could it be exchanged for various cultivation resources, but it could also be used to buy a higher-level cultivation room. At the same time, it was necessary to become a blood cloak assassin. It could be said that the drop of blood was the most precious thing in the Blood Cloak Pavilion. This is only the first reward. The second is this. Feng Shemo said as he took out a small transparent bottle. There was a drop of sparkling red liquid in the bottle. Although the liquid was sealed in the small bottle, Ling Shiqi could feel the pure spiritual energy in it. This is the saliva of a 1,000-year-old black tortoise. It has been refined by blood refining. This drop of saliva contains more spiritual energy than a dozen spiritual transformation pills. Moreover, the spiritual energy in it is extremely pure. After refining it, there won't be any hidden dangers in cultivation. After hearing this, Ling Shiqi couldn't help but be moved. According to what Feng Shemo said, this drop of saliva essence's spiritual energy was comparable to a dozen spiritual transformation pills, but its value was more precious than a dozen spiritual transformation pills. Especially after refining this drop of saliva essence, there wouldn't be any hidden dangers. This was definitely a high-level treasure. Chapter 187. Ling Shiqi was also surprised that Feng Shamo would take out such a high-grade resource like saliva essence. Feng Shamo said, I should have given you some spirit stones and pills, but I think this might be more suitable for you. Ling Shiqi knew that Feng Shamo was taking care of him, so he said, I'll remember your kindness. Okay, I'll remember that. As for the third reward, our pavilion can give you a Tier 4 spirit artifact. What kind of artifact do you want? Feng Shamo said. Ling Shiqi thought for a moment. If it was a weapon, he would also want a level 4 spirit spear. However, he suddenly remembered that he lacked a way to defend against Tang Haoquan's attack. In other words, the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile's beast essence battle patterns were too simple. Therefore, he wanted a defensive spirit weapon. Generally speaking, defensive spirit weapons were more precious than weapons. Thus, after pondering for a moment, he said, Disciple wants a defense-type spirit artifact. Feng Shamo said, You sure know how to pick. Fine, you can have this. He took out a small brown umbrella from his mustard seed bag and said, This is a level 4 spirit weapon, mountain umbrella. Its defense is quite good. Ling Shiqi said a few words of praise and took the umbrella. With this umbrella, it could be said that he made up for his last shortcoming. Although his body wasn't weak, and he had the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile's beast essence battle patterns, these were all his body's defenses. He could only use his body to take damage as a last resort. Now that he had the mountain umbrella, it was completely different. It was equivalent to having another life-saving method. Feng Shamo had given him a lot of benefits this time. There were large amounts of sect contribution points, treasures to increase cultivation, and defensive spirit weapons to protect his life. Ling Shiqi had suddenly become rich. He was secretly glad that he had exposed some of his strength to kill Tang Hapu. Otherwise, he wouldn't have received such a generous reward. However, when he thought of this, he began to hesitate. Wasn't Feng Shamo's reward a little too good? This inevitably made him suspect that Feng Shamo had other motives. As expected, Feng Shamo had more to say. He continued, Other than giving you the reward you deserve, the pavilion has something else to tell you. Ling Shiqi knew that things were not that simple, but he still said respectfully, This disciple is listening. We know who you are, and we also know that you have boundless potential. However, potential is just potential. Take Tang Hapu, who was killed by you. He could be considered a genius, but he still died in the end. Potential is not strength, and your strength is not enough. Our pavilion has a task for you, but you must at least be at the spirit vein stage before you can do it. If you can break through to the spirit vein stage within half a year, the pavilion will give you a great opportunity. If you can't, then that's all you can do. When Ling Shiqi heard this, his eyebrows hidden under the mask couldn't help but twitch. It was mainly because Feng Shamo's words were extremely familiar to him. Because more than a month ago, his cheat master, Wu Xiang, one of the 9 Hades Blood Cloak assassins of the Blood Cloak Pavilion, said something similar. However, Wu Xiang gave him a year's time, while Feng Shamo only gave him half a year. In other words, he had to break through to the sky realm within half a year. This way, he could complete the task given by Feng Shamo and Wu Xiang at the same time. However, although it was easy to say, it was extremely difficult to do. Among the countless spirit cultivators, more than 70% of them were blocked outside the gates of the sky realm. One could imagine how difficult it was. Ling Shiqi knew that his cultivation talent was considered good, but it was definitely not the best. If he cultivated step by step, with the help of the system, he was confident that he could break through to the spirit vein stage before the age of 20. Tang Heyu of the Tang family broke through to the spirit vein stage at the age of 24 and suppressed all the genius disciples in Donglin County. Ling Shiqi could break through before the age of 20, so he was naturally a genius among geniuses. However, the Blood Cloak Pavilion was not satisfied. Wu Xiang was not satisfied either, and even Feng Shamo was not satisfied. If Ling Shiqi could really fulfill Feng Shamo's request, then it would be the same as stepping into the sky realm at the age of 14. This was simply too shocking. Even Ling Shiqi himself could not believe that he could do it. Feng Shamo seemed to have seen through Ling Shiqi's thoughts and directly said, "In this half a year, you cannot accept any tasks. Whatever you want to do, the pavilion will support you. The pavilion will only see the results in half a year." After that, Ling Shiqi felt a gust of wind blow before him, and then Feng Shamo's figure vanished before his eyes. However, Ling Shiqi did not have the time to be surprised by Feng Shamo's strength. His heart was filled with endless pressure. He was thinking about how to quickly improve his cultivation. Spirit stones and pills were a must. Fortunately, he had swept through the remaining resources of the Triad and Chinko Hall, so he didn't lack them for the time being. It was definitely enough for him to reach the peak of the spirit transformation realm. However, he couldn't take too many pills because every time he swallowed a pill, there would be some dregs left in his body. The amount of dregs was related to the quality of the pill. The higher the quality of the pill, the less dregs there would be. Chapter 188. Demonic beasts were very rare in the Falling Star continent. There were even some low-level spirit cultivators who had never seen a demonic beast in their entire lives. There were only 2 places in the Falling Star continent where one could see a large number of demonic beasts. One was the demonic Miasma mountain range. This mountain range spanned across the territories of the 3 great empires. With the suppression of the 3 great empires, the demonic Miasma mountain range gradually became a good place for spirit cultivators to search for treasures and gain experience. The other place where one could see demonic beasts was the northern wilderness. It was said that there were countless demonic beasts hiding there, but because of this, very few people dared to enter the northern wilderness. The entrance to the demonic Miasma mountain range was in the demon-suppressing town of Yongping County. The demon-suppressing town was a very special city because everyone inside was a spirit cultivator. This was the only town in the Thunder Fire dynasty that only allowed spirit cultivators to enter. This was not discrimination against ordinary people, but every once in a while, the demonic beasts in the demonic Miasma mountain range would riot, so this arrangement was for safety reasons. On this day, a short old man with 2 scimitars on his waist walked into the demon-suppressing town with a bag on his back. This person was Ling Shiqi after disguising himself. He specially used 100 drops of blood to exchange for an old man's skin mask. This mask was quite exquisite, and even his eyes were covered, revealing a bit of turbidity. At the same time, he used the breath-restraining technique to lower his cultivation to the 4th level of the spirit transformation realm. 2 days ago, after Feng Shamo came to find him, he decided to make a trip to the demonic Miasma mountain range. That's right, 2 days ago. Yongping County and Donglin County were thousands of miles apart, but Ling Shiqi only used 2 days to arrive. The reason was because he used the teleportation array in the Donglin County branch. Every branch of the Blood Robe Pavilion had a teleportation array, but under normal circumstances, this teleportation array was used to transmit information and materials, and was rarely used to teleport people. Ling Shiqi was only qualified to use it when Feng Shamo opened the back door, and he had to pay an expensive fee. Because the distance was too far, he had to teleport twice from the Donglin County branch to the Yongping County branch. A total of 800 drops of blood and 1,000 spirit stones. Until now, he only had a little more than 100 spirit stones left, which was only enough for his daily cultivation. If he had taken the normal route to get here, it would have taken him at least a month. Just the round trip alone would have taken him 2 months. One had to know that he only had 6 months in total, so he could only use blood drops and spirit stones to buy time. Ling Shiqi walked along the streets and surveyed his surroundings. The most direct impression he got from this city was that it was huge. It was at least 10 times bigger than Upper Sun City. The place was bustling with activity. Every street and shop was packed with people, making the Ling Shiqi truly feel the prosperous atmosphere of spirit cultivation. Other than doing business, almost all of the spirit cultivators in the demon-suppressing Demon City came for the Demon Miasma mountain range. In other words, they hunted demonic beasts for a living. The people here called these spirit cultivators demon hunters. Ling Shiqi could see the corpses of demonic beasts being transported back and forth. There were even a few demonic beasts that were still alive being tied up and carried. He felt that it was a little novel, but the passers-by did not seem to find it strange. However, he also knew his purpose for coming here. He did not want to waste any time and directly walked towards the entrance of the Demon Miasma mountain range. The entrance of the Demon Miasma mountain range was very big, but the Thunderblaze dynasty had built a thick wall that was several meters tall at the entrance, sealing off the entire entrance. There was only one gate in the wall that led to the Demon Miasma mountain range, and in front of the gate was a plaza. When Ling Shiqi arrived, he was immediately stunned. This place could be described as a sea of people. Before he could even get close, he could already hear waves of voices. There were many people setting up stalls on the ground in the plaza, selling necessities and consumables for entering the Demon Miasma mountain range. There were also demonic beast materials and materials for refining pills and equipment from the Demon Miasma mountain range. Other than these, there were even more people who were shouting to form teams to hunt demonic beasts. Come, come, come. Those who want to hunt the second-ranked demonic beast, Blackbird Snake, come over. Those who dare to enter the inner region, come over here. Those below the 4th stage of Sky Realm, do not disturb us. Let's go and capture the purple ancient beast. Come quickly, we're only missing one person. Looking at this scene, Ling Shiqi could not help but feel emotional. In his previous life, he had only seen such a scene in the game. Was this not forming a team to hunt demonic beasts? Ling Shiqi thought for a moment and decided to join a team to enter the Demon Miasma mountain range. Although this would affect his speed of hunting demonic beasts, he was still a newcomer to this place and was unfamiliar with it. Following a team was the fastest way to familiarize himself with this place. Moreover, he could also explore the map while he was at it. Once he had explored the map, he would be able to move around on his own. Ling Shiqi first walked around the plaza and bought some miasma repellent pills. The reason why the Demon Miasma mountain range was called the Demon Miasma mountain range was because not only were there demonic beasts, there was also miasma. Moreover, the deeper one went into the mountain range, the thicker the miasma would be. Therefore, the miasma repellent pills were a necessity to enter the Demon Miasma mountain range. While he was buying the miasma repellent pills, he was also silently looking for a suitable team. He did not have any requirements for the team, but he did have requirements for the target that he wanted to hunt. It would be best if it was a demonic beast that was not slow and liked to run around. That way, he would be able to explore the map even faster. After observing for a while, Ling Shiqi walked toward a man and a woman. The two of them looked to be in their 30s. The man was wearing leather armor and had a burly figure. He was at the 7th layer of the spirit transformation realm. The woman was wearing tight clothes and had an ordinary appearance. She was stroking her hair in boredom and was at the 6th layer of the spirit transformation realm. The middle-aged man would occasionally shout, "Capture the rank 2 silver earth deer." Those at the mid-stage of the spirit transformation realm and above, those with movement techniques will have priority. Just as the middle-aged man finished speaking, a small old man quickly walked through the crowd and did not touch a single person. The small old man stood before the middle-aged man and slowly said, "I wonder if this old man can join." The middle-aged man and the woman looked at each other and nodded. They had seen the scene of Leng Shiqi using his movement technique. Furthermore, his cultivation was at the 4th layer of the spirit transformation realm, which completely met their requirements. Although the 4th layer of the spirit transformation realm was a bit low, they knew that spirit cultivators with low cultivation at this age were very difficult to deal with. This was because these people knew that it would be difficult for their cultivation to improve, so they would spend a lot of time polishing their spirit techniques. Their battle strength was not weak. "I am Cui Jing, and this is my wife, Shi Yanjun. Welcome, old mister." The middle-aged man introduced himself. Leng Shiqi smiled and said, "This old man is Lu Xingji." Chapter 189. After Leng Shiqi successfully joined the team, they started chatting with each other. "I see that old Mr. Lu is quite curious about this place. Could it be that this is old Mr.'s first time in Demon Suppressing City?" Shi Yanjun was a shrewd and meticulous woman. She noticed the occasional flash of curiosity in Leng Shiqi's eyes, but her tone did not have the slightest bit of respect for the old man. Leng Shiqi's heart slightly changed. He thought that this woman was indeed meticulous. However, he did not have to deliberately hide it and replied, "That's right. This old man is already in his twilight years and wants to walk around and see more. I also came here to see the demonic miasma mountain range. So that's how it is. This little girl actually also wants to walk around the Thunderfire dynasty and see all the mountains and rivers." Unfortunately, Shi Yanjun suddenly stopped here because 2 more people were walking over. Leng Shiqi also turned his head and saw 2 young men walking over. One of them had a simple and honest face while the other looked a bit impatient. However, the 2 of them had higher cultivations than the simple and honest young man. They were at the 5th level of the spirit transformation realm while the impatient young man was only at the 4th level. Cui Jing went up to them and the 3 of them began to chat. Leng Shiqi secretly listened and knew that the simple and honest young man was called Huyan Men and the other was called Hongxiang. Although their personalities were very different, the 2 of them carried a faint arrogance in their movements. He guessed that the 2 of them should be disciples of some spirit cultivation sect that came out to gain experience. Since he could see through it, Cui Jing and Shi Yanjun could naturally see through it as well. The 2 of them did not have high cultivations, but since they were from a spirit cultivator sect, their skills should not be bad, so Cui Jing included them in the team. Now, their team had 5 people. Cui Jing said, "The number of people is about right. Let's prepare to set off. This time, our goal is to capture the silver ground deer alive. The silver ground deer is a very vigilant demonic beast. If there is any movement around it, it will immediately run away. Therefore, after finding the silver ground deer, we must not alert it. The team was formed by me, and my cultivation is the highest. After entering the demonic miasma mountain range, you must listen to me. Otherwise, failing the mission is a small matter, but don't lose your life. Finally, in order to cooperate better in the future, everyone should talk about what they are good at. I use a heavy axe and my wife is a spirit caster who specializes in wood-type spirit spells." Leng 17 and the other 2 glanced at Shi Yanjun in surprise. Clearly, they did not expect her to be a spirit caster. Moreover, she majored in wood attribute spirit spells. In a place like the demonic miasma mountain range, where trees and forests were everywhere, she could be said to be like a fish in water. What Leng Shiqi was even more puzzled was that since Shi Yanjun was a spirit caster, it should be easy for her to join a spirit cultivator sect. Even second-rate sects would open their doors to welcome her. Then why was she still rushing about in this dangerous demonic miasma mountain range? Leng Shiqi inadvertently glanced at Cui Jing and thought, could it be because of him? The power of love is truly great. At this moment, the simple and honest youth Huyan Men said, "I'm good at fist techniques." Hongxiang said, "I use a sword." Leng Shiqi finally said, this old man is proficient in blade techniques and has dabbled in other things." Hearing Leng Shiqi's words, the other 4 people weren't surprised. After all, he was already so old, it was reasonable for him to know more things. Cui Jing picked up the large axe beside him and said, "Okay, I'll give everyone an hour to prepare." Entering the demonic miasma mountain range is no small matter. All of the supplies must be prepared. After an hour, gather here. The few people immediately dispersed. Leng Shiqi walked around nearby and prepared some dry food and water. When he passed by the small stalls, his heart suddenly moved. It was said that in a place like this, there would always be some amazing treasures hidden and sold as ordinary things. Leng Shiqi didn't think that he had any old man to help him, but he had the system. Leng Shiqi casually walked to a stall and picked up a rank 2 monster core. Suddenly, a system prompt appeared in front of him that only he could see. The value is 22 system coins. Do you want to sell? No. Of course, Leng Shiqi couldn't take other people's things in front of him. Then, he picked up another rank 1 spiritual weapon. The value is 13 system coins. Do you want to sell? No. Leng Shiqi picked up one item after another, but there was nothing special about them according to the system's notification. When the stall owner saw that Leng Shiqi was still dissatisfied after going through all his things, he said angrily, "If you want to buy, then buy. If you don't want to buy, then leave." Leng Shiqi touched his nose a little awkwardly, then walked to the next stall. Anyway, there was still plenty of time. He could still look around. However, after looking at dozens of stalls, Leng Shiqi still didn't find anything. Just as the appointed time was approaching, a line of words suddenly appeared in front of Leng Shiqi's eyes. The value is 273 system coins. Do you want to sell? Leng Shiqi's eyes lit up. He carefully looked at the black stone in his hand, but he couldn't see anything special about it. He directly asked the stall owner, "What is this? Are you selling it?" The stall owner was a young man in his 20s. Seeing that someone was interested in the item, he was about to fabricate an earth-shattering story. However, Leng Shiqi interrupted him and said, "That's right. Young man, this old man has walked more roads than you have bridges. Don't make up stories." The stall owner immediately smiled and said, "Old man, I didn't say anything. You can't accuse me. This old man has important things to do. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. I'll take it for 1,000. What? 1,000? The stall owner was naturally unwilling. The main currency in Jinyao town was spirit stones. Ordinary gold and silver were not very useful here. Leng Shiqi made an impatient expression and said, "Young man, don't be greedy. You earned 1,000 for free. Otherwise, you can keep it to eat dust." The stall owner was still a little hesitant. Leng Shiqi was most afraid that the stall owner would think too much. Once the stall owner thought carefully, he might realize that something was wrong. So, Leng Shiqi directly took out 1,000 silver notes and put it on the stall. Then, he picked up the stone and left. Before the stall owner could react, Leng Shiqi turned and left. He opened his mouth and was about to call Leng Shiqi back, but when he saw the money in front of him, he closed his mouth and put it away. It would be a waste if he didn't earn 1,000. Leng Shiqi saw that the stall owner didn't call him back. He immediately quickened his pace and returned to the meeting place. When he arrived, the others were already there. He nodded to them as a greeting. Cui Jing carried a large bag and a heavy axe and shouted, "Let's go." Chapter 190. After entering the demonic miasma mountain range, Leng Shiqi immediately swallowed a miasma-repelling pill. The entire demonic miasma mountain range was filled with a faint yellow miasma. If this miasma was breathed into the body, it would not cause any problems for a short period of time, but if it accumulated too much, it would seriously corrode the meridians and destroy the cultivation foundation. The demonic miasma mountain range was roughly divided into the outer region, the inner region, and the center region. Generally speaking, spirit cultivators below the 4 realms of sky human could only wander around the outer region. The outer region was basically filled with level 1 and level 2 monsters. Of course, there would be level 3 monsters occasionally, but the chances of encountering them were very small. Only level 4 realms of sky human experts had the qualifications to enter the inner region. The weakest monsters inside were level 3 monsters. As for the center region, it was said that even Unity of Heaven experts did not dare to casually enter. Ling Shiqi's group of 5 walked into the mountain range. As they walked, the mountain path gradually disappeared. There were fewer and fewer people around them. The trees grew thicker and thicker. Even the miasma seemed to be thicker. Ling Shiqi observed the surroundings as he walked. One of his hands was on the hilt of his blade, and he was alert at all times. After about 2 hours, Cui Jing, who was walking at the front, suddenly raised his hand. Ling Shiqi and the rest immediately stopped and quietly hid behind a nearby tree. Ling Shiqi saw from the corner of his eyes that there was a rather large monster not far away. "It's the white beast," Cui Jing said softly. The white beast was a level 2 monster. Its biggest characteristic was that its defense was very strong, and its speed was not slow either. Unless it was specifically to hunt the white beast, ordinary people would not provoke it. Cui Jing said, "Let's go around it quietly. Don't alert it." Ling Shiqi and the others nodded in agreement. They were all proficient in movement techniques, and under their deliberate control, they didn't make any sound even when they were walking in the forest. They went around in a big circle to avoid the white beast. Cui Jing then took out a map and gestured a few times, saying, "The silver ground deer likes to eat silver flower gu leaves. Let's go to a place with silver flower gu leaves and wait." "Wait?" Hongxiang said with a little dissatisfaction. "Then how long do we have to wait? What if the silver earth deer goes somewhere else? Do we have to keep waiting?" Cui Jing's tone suddenly sank. "If you have any other way to find the silver ground deer, then tell me." Hongxiang was speechless. He mumbled, "I just don't want to waste time." "You are wasting time talking nonsense here." At this time, Shi Yanjun coldly said, not giving him any face. Hongxiang's face was filled with anger, but Huyan Men pulled him back. In the end, he didn't say anything. Cui Jing put away the map and said, "Everyone, it seems that I have to say the ugly words first. If you don't want to listen to me, it's not too late for you to go back now. You can still find your way back. However, if you do this again in the future, don't blame me for mercilessly throwing you into the demonic miasma mountain range." Without a precise map, what will happen if you get lost in a mountain range filled with demonic beasts? Think about it yourself. With that, he took the lead and walked forward, followed by Shi Yanjun and Ling Shiqi. Hongxiang and Huyan Men hesitated for a moment, but still followed. Ling Shiqi walked in the middle of the 2 groups. He didn't say a word from the beginning to the end. When he saw Cui Jing's map, he knew that he had to follow Cui Jing. He was still thinking about whether or not he should find a chance to snatch the map. However, he still dispelled the idea. He had just entered the demonic miasma mountain range and was still unfamiliar with the situation here. With such an experienced demonic beast hunter leading the way, it would be much more convenient. As for the map, he would think of something in the future. The group of 5 continued walking after a small wave, but the atmosphere was heavier than before. This was not only because of the small conflict, but also because they were encountering demonic beasts more and more frequently. Fortunately, they all had movement-type spirit techniques. They continuously avoided 3 rank 2 demonic beasts and finally arrived at their destination. This was a sparse forest. There were many plants growing on the ground. The roots were light silver, but the leaves were dark green. This was the silver flower gu leaf, which was also the favorite food of the silver ground deer. Furthermore, this silver flower gu leaf had no use for spirit cultivators, so very few people picked it. Cui Jing brought a few people to hide behind a tree and whispered, "We will wait here until noon tomorrow. If the silver ground deer doesn't come, we will change to another place." Yanjun. Shi Yanjun didn't say anything when she heard this. Her hands flashed with a faint spirit light as she continuously formed hand seals. The branches on the trees around them began to wriggle like living creatures. Not long after, a large net was formed above the silver flower gu leaves. Spirit Seal School? Leng Shiqi thought to himself. Leng Shiqi specially went to understand the system of spirit cultivators not long ago. Among the spirit cultivators, there were roughly 3 systems: Spirit Seal School, Spirit Incantation School, and Spirit Array School. The Spirit Seal School used both hands to form seals to attract the elements of heaven and earth to form spirit techniques. This school required a large amount of practice in the beginning to increase the speed of forming seals. Furthermore, because both hands were required to form seals, there was no way to use spirit tools. They could only use some auxiliary spirit tools. Leng Shiqi's centipede incantation belonged to this school. However, the biggest advantage of the Spirit Seal School was that before reaching the Sky Realm, they would have decent fighting strength. For a Spirit Seal School spirit cultivator like Shi Yanjun, who majored in wood-type spirit techniques, she could definitely fight against a spirit cultivator at the 8th or 9th level of the Spirit Transformation Realm. The other Spirit Incantation School was chanting incantations to communicate with the elements of heaven and earth. It was easier to get started, but it was easy to be interrupted. As for the Spirit Array School, it was the rarest of the 3 schools. It was also the hardest to cultivate because one had to be proficient in spirit arrays. Leng Shiqi's spirit attack was this kind of spirit array. In short, each of the 3 schools had its pros and cons. At this time, Shi Yanjun spoke. We want to capture the silver ground deer alive. Once it appears, I will use a net to bind it. Don't use weapons first. Injure it as quickly as possible. Leng Shiqi replied, this old man understands. Hong Ziong and Huyan Men also nodded, but didn't say anything. Thus, they began to wait for a long time. Gradually, the sun set in the west, and the mountain range quickly entered the night. People say that time passes very slowly when waiting. Leng Shiqi relied on his high spiritual power to take a nap. Cui Jing and Shi Yanjun seemed to be used to this and didn't think much of it. Huyan Men was originally a bit slow, so he sat there in a daze thinking about something. Only Hong Ziong became more and more impatient, and frequently poked his head out to take a look. Suddenly, he shouted, "It's here." Chapter 191. Hong Ziong suddenly shouted out a sentence, and Leng Shiqi knew that something was wrong. He hurriedly turned around and saw a snow-white deer standing there. When it heard Hong Ziong's voice, it immediately ran away. Cui Jing immediately shouted, "Idiot!" Shi Yanjun hurriedly formed a seal, and the prepared net fell down. However, the silver ground deer's speed was too fast, and the net was too late, unable to stop it. Cui Jing and Shi Yanjun had no time to blame Hong Ziong, and the 2 of them immediately rushed out to chase after the silver ground deer. Leng Shiqi didn't care at all. He didn't come here to catch the silver ground deer, and then he used spirit steps to catch up with Cui Jing and his wife. At this moment, Hong Ziong's face was green and red. He also realized his mistake, and felt a little guilty. However, Leng Shiqi and the other 2 ignored him, which made him feel a little angry. Huyan Men only came back to his senses at this moment. He touched the back of his head and said, "Junior Hong, where are they? What did you shout just now? Don't ask, hurry up and chase." Hong Ziong was too lazy to explain to him, and pulled him along as he ran. The strange thing was, after running for a few steps, Huyan Men's speed suddenly surpassed Hong Ziong's, and he was left behind. The silver ground deer's jumping ability was very good, and it could jump a few feet with a casual jump. Fortunately, Leng Shiqi and the rest weren't slow, and Cui Jing was quite familiar with the surrounding terrain, so they were able to catch up. However, if they continued like this, they didn't know when they would be able to catch up to the silver ground deer. Moreover, if they were to charge forward like this, it was very likely that they would bump into other demonic beasts. At that time, not only would they lose track of the silver ground deer, they would also get into big trouble. Cui Jing was a little anxious, and he gave Shi Yanjun a look. Shi Yanjun quickly formed a seal as she ran, and Leng Shiqi, who was behind her, immediately felt a strong mental power surge out from her body. Shortly after, Shi Yanjun let out a low roar. The two small trees in front of her suddenly whipped down like vines, aiming directly at the silver-ground deer. The silver-ground deer had some intelligence. It sensed the danger from above and stopped abruptly. The two vines brushed past its nose and drew two deep marks on the ground. Seeing that the silver-ground deer had stopped, Cui Jing did not care about anything else. His speed increased explosively, and in a few blinks of an eye, he rushed over. The heavy axe in his hand was as light as a feather, and he swung it with ease, smashing it down with the force of a mountain. Boom! A loud sound rang out. Cui Jing's axe cut through half of the ground, and the force of the axe created a large hole. However, the silver-ground deer had already dodged it. At this moment, a figure flashed past like a ghost. Then, a large number of saber shadows fell down. It was Leng Shiqi. The silver-ground deer was very fast, but no matter how fast it was, it could not dodge all the saber shadows. With a few poochie sounds, a few saber marks appeared on its body. Ouch, ouch, ouch. The silver-ground deer let out a strange cry in pain. Leng Shiqi and the others did not care too much. As long as they could keep it here, it was fine. Immediately, Shi Yanjun weaved a large net again. Cui Jing and Leng Shiqi tacitly blocked the silver-ground deer. Seeing that Shi Yanjun was about to drop the net, Huyan Men and Hong Xiang arrived one after another. Cui Jing immediately shouted, "Quick, stop the silver-ground deer." Hong Xiang immediately pulled out his spiritual sword and prepared to attack, but he realized that the silver-ground deer was staring at him. Hong Xiang's heart suddenly thumped. The silver-ground deer's intelligence was not low. It immediately recognized that the weakest of the five was Hong Xiang. The deer antlers on its head suddenly released a silver brilliance, and a few sharp spikes appeared on its antlers. Immediately after, the silver-ground deer ignored Leng Shiqi and Cui Jing's attacks and charged directly at Hong Xiang. Cui Jing hurriedly said, "Don't be afraid, hold it back. The net is about to drop." Unfortunately, Hong Xiang had never faced a rank 2 monster before. Moreover, it was a rank 2 monster that was charging straight at him. At this moment, Hong Xiang's first reaction was to run. Hong Xiang's ears did not hear Cui Jing's words at all. He only wanted to run. Even Leng Shiqi felt that this Hong Xiang was too weak. He did not know which sect trained this disciple. Cui Jing was probably going to explode in anger. Not only that, Huyan Men was also a talent. He originally thought that Huyan Men was just a little simple and honest, but now he was just standing there foolishly. It seemed that he was just a simpleton. At this moment, Leng Shiqi suddenly suspected that the three of them, including him, were all newcomers to the demonic miasma mountain range. Cui Jing and his wife brought such a person to catch the silver-ground deer. Wasn't it a little too dramatic? Was there some other hidden story? Or was it that Cui Jing and his wife were warm-hearted and liked to bring newcomers? However, this was not the time for him to think about it. After Hong Xiang turned to run, the silver-ground deer chased after Huyan Men and used this opportunity to escape the encirclement. Just as it was running, Huyan Men inexplicably punched out. His punches were slow and sluggish, like an old man punching the air. However, the moment the silver-ground deer passed by Huyan Men, a muffled pang sound was heard. A large part of the silver-ground deer's abdomen caved in, and its body flew out. And Huyan Men was still in a punching position. Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed with surprise. He did not know if Huyan Men had predicted this or if it was a lucky hit, but he did not want to give up this opportunity. He quickly pulled out his sword and charged at the silver-ground deer. Cui Jing and Shi Yanjun did the same. Leng Shiqi threw out a gale slash. This time, the silver-ground deer did not run away. Instead, it turned its body and charged at him with the antlers on its head. A crisp, dang, sound was heard. Leng Shiqi's dual blades slashed at the silver-ground deer's antlers, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. His eyes focused. He used a rank 4 spirit blade and a rank 2 gale slash, but he only managed to cut off a small part of the silver-ground deer's antlers. Cui Jing also attacked at this moment. When he saw Leng Shiqi destroy the silver-ground deer's antlers, his heart ached. This way, even if the silver-ground deer were to be captured alive, the price would be lowered. Just as Cui Jing raised his giant axe and Shi Yanjun was about to use a spirit technique to trap the silver-ground deer, the silver-ground deer suddenly let out a happy cry. Immediately after, Leng Shiqi felt the ground tremble slightly, and the trembling was getting stronger and stronger. Not long after, an extremely tall and strange demon beast that was completely crimson-red like a rock appeared before their eyes. Its terrifying demonic aura emanated from its body. Cui Jing's mouth was wide open, and he said in shock, "Rank 3 demon beast, red crag beast?" Chapter 192. The sudden appearance of a rank 3 monster here was completely out of everyone's expectations. Leng Shiqi, Cui Jing, and Shi Yanjun stood together and looked at the Zhu crag beast vigilantly. Huyan Men also came over. As for Hong Xiang, after running a few steps, he also noticed something strange behind him. His expression changed several times, but in the end, he still shamelessly walked over. This was because he knew that if he ran around in this unfamiliar demonic miasma mountain range, he would die sooner or later. Leng Shiqi narrowed his eyes. He saw that the silver-ground deer actually ran to the Zhu crag beast and jumped around. The Zhu crag beast also let out a low growl. It seemed that the two of them had a good relationship. Leng Shiqi had never seen such a scene before. In his impression, a rank 2 monster should have a natural fear of a rank 3 monster. How could they be so close? However, he didn't have much time to think. A rank 3 monster wasn't something he could deal with. At this moment, he already had thoughts of retreating. Using the system map, he could at least return the way he came. As for the others, he couldn't care less. The silver-ground deer circled around the Zhu crag beast and whined a few times. The Zhu crag beast's lamp-sized eyes suddenly stared at Leng Shiqi and the others. Its eyes were filled with ferocity and brutality. "Retreat!" Cui Jing shouted, then turned around and ran. Shi Yanjun followed closely behind. She quickly formed a seal and summoned several vines behind her in an attempt to block the Zhu crag beast. The Zhu crag beast immediately charged over like a small mountain. Wherever it passed, whether it was the trees or Shi Yanjun's vines, they were all broken in an instant. In a split second, soil flew everywhere and branches fell. Leng Shiqi and the others didn't dare to stay for a moment. They had already used their fastest speed to escape. The Zhu crag beast looked very clumsy, but its speed wasn't slow. Moreover, its ferocious aura affected people's minds. Hong Xiang was already frightened by the silver-ground deer. Now that he saw the Zhu crag beast charging over, he was scared out of his wits. Seeing that the Zhu crag beast was about to catch up, he hurriedly shouted, "Senior Marshal Brother Huyan, save me." At this moment, the sluggishness in Huyan Men's eyes and the wooden expression on his face quickly faded away, revealing a pair of eyes that were radiating with radiance. He said with a bit of displeasure, "Humph, you caused me to unseal myself. I'll settle this score when we get back." Following which, Huyan Men lightly punched out. This punch clearly didn't have any moves, nor did it have any spiritual light. However, when he punched out, it was as if he had punched through the air, emitting a deafening sonic boom. An invisible fist force exploded on the red crag beast's body, causing it to pause slightly, but that was all. Then, the red crag beast continued to charge forward unscathed. However, this slight pause bought Hong Xiang precious time, and he took the opportunity to distance himself from the red crag beast. Leng Shiqi ran the furthest with his great perfection realm floating feather steps. When he saw Huyan Men's punch, he also felt that he had made a mistake. He didn't know what level of spiritual skill that punch was, but Leng Shiqi keenly felt that it wasn't simple. Huyan Men wasn't simple either. Just when Hong Xiang thought that he had escaped, the red crag beast's body began to curl up into a ball. From afar, it looked like a round boulder the size of a house. The red crag beast began to roll its body towards them, and its speed was getting faster and faster. Leng Shiqi and the others could only scatter and run in this situation. Whether it was intentional or not, the red crag beast's target was Hong Xiang. Rumble. As the red crag beast rolled over, all the trees were blown away. Even though Hong Xiang used all his strength and raised his speed to the limit, he still couldn't outrun the red crag beast. Hong Xiang could only call for help again, "Save me, save me." However, even his senior martial brother Huyan Men wasn't moved. He fled in another direction, and Leng Shiqi and the others wouldn't save him. In the eyes of Cui Jing and Shi Yanjun, Hong Xiang deserved to die. If he hadn't made a fuss and startled the silver ground deer, they would have already captured it and prepared to return. They wouldn't have encountered a rank 3 demonic beast and could only flee in a sorry state. With a loud bang, the red crag beast slammed into Hong Xiang. Hong Xiang was just a mortal, how could he compare to a rank 3 demonic beast? He was instantly crushed into meat paste, dying without a complete corpse. Seeing this, Leng Shiqi was a little shocked. In front of a rank 3 demonic beast, a spirit cultivator in the middle stage of the spirit transformation realm couldn't even withstand a single blow. Fortunately, he ran quickly. However, when he saw the red crag beast rolling towards him, Leng Shiqi's eyes couldn't help but twitch a few times. He secretly cursed his bad luck, but there was no other way. He could only increase his speed by a bit. After the red crag beast killed Hong Xiang, it turned and rolled towards Leng Shiqi. Even though he had already used the ghost parade and the floating feather spirit steps to the extreme, the distance between the two was still slowly closing. Just as Leng Shiqi was thinking about whether or not to drill into the ground, he suddenly heard the sound of a demonic beast in front of him. His expression finally changed. There was a red crag beast behind him, and now there was a demonic beast in front of him. He felt that he was really unlucky. However, just as he was about to use the hand of the earth to drill into the ground, he suddenly realized that there were no demonic beasts in front of him, but 6 people. The 6 people were all wearing green and blue robes and looked to be in their 20s. They were standing right in front of Leng Shiqi. The person in the lead had a dignified appearance and an imposing appearance. He didn't hide his spirit pulse realm cultivation. A spirit pulse realm cultivator in his 20s. As for the other 5 people, they were all at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. At this moment, Leng Shiqi saw the person in the lead open his mouth and let out a demonic roar. So the demonic roar just now was from him. In the boundless world, all kinds of cultivation methods and spirit techniques could exist. Leng Shiqi wasn't too surprised by this. He was surprised that even if the other party was at the spirit pulse realm, they might not be able to stop the red crag beast. However, something surprising happened. The red crag beast that was chasing after Leng Shiqi suddenly stopped and returned to its original appearance. It then opened its mouth and let out a caw-caw roar. The spirit pulse realm young man and the red crag beast stood there and started chatting. Leng Shiqi looked at this amazing scene and thought, being able to communicate with demonic beasts isn't a powerful ability, but being able to calm down a rank 3 demonic beast is really powerful. They should be disciples of some large sect. After the man and beast chatted for a while, the red crag beast turned around and slowly walked away. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Leng Shiqi would never have believed such a bizarre thing. The spirit pulse realm cultivator who was communicating with the demonic beast walked over and said, "I am Si Kong Shou, a disciple of the Imperial Beast House. Senior, are you alright?" Chapter 193. Leng Shiqi was startled for half a breath before replying in a hoarse voice, "Thank you for saving my life. This old man is very grateful." The reason he was startled was because he remembered what kind of sect the Imperial Beast Camp was. It had a bit of a relationship with the Blood Cloth Pavilion. The Imperial Beast Camp was one of the top 7 sects in the world, along with the Blood Cloth Pavilion. The top 7 sects were the Vitality Valley, the Sky Amplification Palace, the Blood Cloth Pavilion, the Great Sound Bar, the Mechanical City, the Imperial Beast Camp, and the Divine Tempering Peak. The reason why these 7 sects could be ranked among the 7 unique sects was not only because they were strong, but also because each of them had unique skills that could be called the best in the world. For example, the Blood Cloth Pavilion was the strongest assassin force in the Thunderfire dynasty. It could even be said that way on the entire Starfall continent. The disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp could tame beasts. The disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp were brought into the sect from a young age. They were provided with different types of demonic beast cubs according to their aptitude and cultivation. To outsiders, they were demonic beasts, but to the people of the Imperial Beast Camp, they were spirit beasts. Not only were they spirit beasts, but the disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp had to live with spirit beast cubs since they were young. They cultivated together, played together, and grew up together. He truly treated the spirit beasts as his best friend, or even as his family. That was why communicating with demonic beasts was the most basic ability of the disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp. If the Blood Cloth Pavilion was best at assassination, then the Imperial Beast Camp was best at taming beasts. Every disciple of the Imperial Beast Camp had to be treated as 2 people because every disciple of the Imperial Beast Camp had a spirit beast. Spirit beasts were generally stronger than the disciples themselves. Furthermore, they were able to perform some joint attacks and were extremely powerful among those of the same rank. However, Ling Shiqi didn't expect to meet a disciple of a top sect like the Imperial Beast Camp. He saw that Sikong Shou was only in his 20s and had already reached the spirit vein realm. He could be considered a genius among geniuses. However, there was no arrogance on Sikong Shou's face. Instead, he had a gentle temperament. The 5 behind him were all at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm at such a young age, but they were all very polite. They were not people like Hong Xiang could compare to. This is a true disciple of a top sect. Ling Shiqi nodded. However, he was still a little confused. If he remembered correctly, the Imperial Beast abode should be located near the wildlands in the far north. Because that place was close to the boorish desolate land, they could enter there to capture some demonic beasts and nurture them. It was said that there were countless demonic beasts in the boorish desolate land, so why would the people of the Imperial Beast abode come to the demonic Miasma mountain range? At this moment, Sikong Shou said, "It's good that Senior is fine. I heard that there are very few rank 3 demonic beasts in the outskirts of the demonic Miasma mountain range. How did Senior encounter the Red Crag beast?" Ling Shiqi knew that the Imperial Beast Camp regarded demonic beasts as their companions, so he naturally could not say that he was here to capture the silver earth deer. Sigh, this old man was also harmed by a scoundrel. In order to escape, I had no choice but to approach the inner area. However, I didn't expect to encounter a 3rd-rank demonic beast. Fortunately, Your Excellency saved my life. I see. Sikong Shou nodded. However, he did not know how much he believed. He continued to ask, "Senior, do you know if there are any abnormalities in the demonic Miasma mountain range recently?" Abnormalities? Ling Shiqi was confused. He was new here, so he did not know if there were any abnormalities. However, he still thought and said, "Nothing else. If you want to talk about abnormalities, I don't know if encountering a 3rd-rank demonic beast here counts." This old man also heard that 3rd-rank demonic beasts have been appearing more frequently recently. Sikong Shou's eyes flashed with understanding. He said, "Senior, thank you for telling us. We still have some matters to attend to, so we won't disturb Senior. This place is dangerous, so it's better for Senior to leave first. But this old man really can't repay you for saving my life." Ling Shiqi showed a troubled expression. Sikong Shou straightened his back and said, "How can we be greedy for rewards? Senior, please don't take it to heart. As expected of a disciple of a large sect. Your bearing is extraordinary. This old man admires you." Leng Shiqi clasped his fist and sighed. Hearing Leng Shiqi's words, a trace of joy appeared on their faces. Then, they exchanged a few more pleasantries and left. After walking for a while, Leng Shiqi pondered for a moment. Then, he sank into the ground and quietly followed Sikong Shou and the other Imperial Beast Abode disciples. At this point, he and Shui Jing were completely separated. Naturally, he could not continue with the mission. However, Leng Shiqi's mission to open the map had not been completed yet. He felt that he could follow the system map back to where he came from. With this guarantee, he had other thoughts. Sikong Shou and the other 5 came all the way to the demonic Miasma mountain range for a reason. Moreover, it was their first time here. However, they did not find anyone to lead the way. It was obvious that they had a detailed map. Following them would not only allow him to find out some unknown information, but he would also be able to open the map. It could be said that he was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Leng Shiqi restrained his aura and kept a distance behind Sikong Shou and the others. He did not dare to get too close. For a spirit pulse realm cultivator like Sikong Shou who came from a top force, who knows what kind of strange spirit technique he had. Maybe he could sense his aura. Sikong Shou and the others were moving very fast. It wasn't because they were fast, but because whenever they encountered a beast, those beasts would take the initiative to get out of the way. They didn't need to circle around like Leng Shiqi and the others. It could be said that they were moving in a straight line. Gradually, the surrounding miasma became thicker. Even Leng Shiqi could feel it deep underground. Leng Shiqi followed for a few hours. At this time, Sikong Shou stopped and said in a deep voice, "We will enter the inner region if we continue forward. Let's stop here for today and rest here." The other 5 people took out some supplies from their mustard seed bags and set up a simple tent. One person patrolled outside while the others sat in the tent and chatted. "Senior brother, it has been almost a day and we have not found anything. It seems that we can only find some clues in the inner region. The inner region is full of danger. With our strength, wouldn't it be too risky to go in?" "That's right. Should we wait for the sex experts to arrive before going in to explore? Then what's the point of us going in first? We are opening the way for the sect. We must go in. Senior brother, you should say something." The 5 spirit transformation realm disciples all had different opinions. It was Sikong Shou who made the decision. Chapter 194. Sikong Shou pondered for a moment and said, "Our mission is to find clues first. We can't back down. The Blood Beast sect has already sent people here. If we don't go in, we'll be 1 step behind." Leng Shiqi didn't get too close, but he faintly heard the words, "Blood Beast sect," and his heart trembled again. When he was on Blood Fog Island, he accidentally obtained the Beast Essence demonic technique from Zhualaogui, and Zhualaogui was from the Blood Beast sect. After coming to the Great World, Leng Shiqi also specially learned about the Blood Beast sect. The Blood Beast sect was also a top force in the world's sect ranking, one of the 6 demonic realms. The Blood Beast sect was a demonic cultivation sect, and their cultivation methods were also related to demonic beasts. However, the difference between the Blood Beast sect and the Imperial Beast sect was that the Blood Beast sect completely studied and refined demonic beasts. Every disciple of the Blood Beast sect could also tame beasts, but they refined demonic beasts into blood beasts. Each blood beast had different characteristics and was very difficult to deal with. It could be said that the Imperial Beast sect and the Blood Beast sect were 2 completely opposite sections. Moreover, their sects were built near the wilderness of the extreme north. The 2 sides had been fighting for hundreds and thousands of years, and they had long been in a situation where only one side would die. Leng Shiqi thought to himself, "What's in this demonic miasma mountain range?" It actually attracted people from 2 top sects. However, since it involves the grudge between the Imperial Beast sect and the Blood Beast sect, I'd better not blindly get involved. At this time, he already had the intention to retreat. He didn't have much of the map, but it was enough for him. His purpose in coming to the demonic miasma mountain range was to kill demonic beasts and then refine their blood to quickly improve his cultivation. He didn't want to get involved in other things. Thinking of this, Ling Shiqi quietly retreated. He walked back according to the system map and didn't hide his tracks. Sure enough, not long after, he saw a rank 2 demonic beast. It was a huge spider half the height of a person. The spider's body was pale white, and its 8 sharp limbs left a little bit of ice wherever it went. This was a rank 2 demonic beast, Frost Spider. Ling Shiqi instantly activated the spiritual ruin Beast King's Beast Essence battle tattoo, and his body rapidly grew. He pulled out his unadorned jade sword. The blade of the sword shone with a gentle jade light, but this light hid endless killing intent. Ling Shiqi's feet moved, and his sword stabbed out from behind. The frost spider suddenly turned around, its 4 bloody eyes glaring angrily. Then, it opened its hideous mouth and spat out a sticky white substance. Ling Shiqi didn't dare to meet the attack head-on. He used floating feather steps, and easily dodged the attack. Soon after, Ling Shiqi's jade sword shook and instantly split into 12 phantoms. The 12 phantoms instantly surrounded the flying frost spider. Each of the phantoms unleashed jade-colored sword lights, each of which carried an invisible sword energy. Puff, 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 the sound of swords piercing flesh could be heard. In the blink of an eye, the flying frost spider's 8 legs and 4 eyes were all pierced. There were also 12 rays of sword energy that entered its body. While killing its flesh, it also blocked the flow of spirit energy. The flying frost spider couldn't even support its own body. Its 8 legs went soft and it fell to the ground. With one move, the flying frost spider had been crippled. This move, Dazzling Flowers, was the first technique that Ling Shiqi comprehended. It had fused the Charging Pulse Sword Chi, Cold Frost Sword Chi, and Floating Feather Steps. However, before this, the power of this move had not been fully displayed. Firstly, his opponents were too strong. They were either Chu Xian Ran, a half-step Spirit Pulse Realm cultivator, or they were directly dealing with Spirit Pulse Realm experts. Secondly, because his spirit weapon was only a rank 3 spirit sword, and it was slightly damaged, it was a hindrance to this move. Now, his opponent was a rank 2 monster with the same cultivation as him. He also had a rank 4 unadorned jade sword, so he could fully display the power of Dazzling Flowers. After crippling the flying frost spider in one move, Ling Shiqi did not let down his guard. The reason why the flying frost spider was called the flying frost spider was not just because of this ability. After falling to the ground, it brewed a dense cold air in its mouth. Although it could not see, it could still sense Ling Shiqi's position. Then, the flying frost spider opened its mouth and spat out a huge pillar of cold air. Ling Shiqi was no stranger to cold air. His left palm lit up with a faint starlight. Then, he pushed his palm forward and released a torrential cold air. Spirit Assault, Path of Frost. The 2 waves of cold air intertwined and collided. Caw-caw sounds could be heard. That was the sound of the cold air condensing into ice and then breaking. The flying frost spider was already heavily injured and did not have enough strength. Gradually, its cold air was pushed back by Ling Shiqi. In the end, the flying frost spider was actually frozen by Ling Shiqi's cold air. Of course, for the flying frost spider, it only needed a little time to break through this ice. However, in this little time, a purple crescent blade aura had already reached it. Bang! The flying frost spider was directly cut in half by the crescent blade aura. Ling Shiqi did not hesitate. He put away his blade and formed a seal. The scattered monster blood gathered and gradually condensed into a ball of blood the size of a fist. Then, he dug out the flying frost spider's monster core and sold its corpse to the system for 32 system coins. After that, he removed the Beast Yuan battle rune and quickly left this place. Other than a piece of ice, there was nothing left to prove the flying frost spider's existence. Once upon a time, when Ling Shiqi faced a rank 2 monster, the spiritual ruin Beast King, he used all his trump cards and was heavily injured before he managed to kill the spiritual ruin beast king. Now, a rank 2 monster was like a lamb in front of him. He could easily kill it. The more Leng Shiqi experienced the benefits of being powerful, the more he desired to be more powerful. After walking for a while, he burrowed into the ground. First, he took some time to recover his spiritual power. Then, he took out the flying frost spider's monster core and pondered. This Yao core was pale white, and it felt cold to the touch. Leng Shiqi was pondering whether or not he should fuse with this Yao core. Now, he had the spiritual ruin beast king and the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile's beast yuan battle rune. One increased his strength and the other increased his defense. Both were very useful. After refining the flying frost spider's monster core, it would definitely increase the cold air. This would be very helpful for Leng Shiqi. However, at this stage, Leng Shiqi could only refine 2 beast yuan battle runes at the same time. If he wanted to refine the flying frost spider's monster core, he would have to give up either the spiritual ruin beast king or the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile. Leng Shiqi was a little hesitant. He thought about it and decided to wait and see. Now that he was in the demonic miasma mountain range, there were plenty of rank 2 monsters. Maybe he would encounter a better one. Chapter 195. After that, Leng Shiqi began to hunt rank 2 demonic beasts in the demonic miasma mountain range, refining demonic blood, collecting demonic cores, and selling demonic corpses. It could be said that he was like a fish in water. Before coming to the demonic miasma mountain range, he had already refined the saliva essence given to him by Feng Shamo. His cultivation was already at the peak of the 7th level of the spirit transformation realm. In the past 2 days, he had refined demonic blood 3 times in a row and finally broke through to the 8th level of the spirit transformation realm. Now, Leng Shiqi planned to make a trip back to the demon-suppressing city because he didn't have many supplies left. At first, when he came in with Cui Jing and the others, he thought that he would be able to return in 2 or 3 days, so he didn't bring much food. More importantly, he was about to run out of miasma avoidance pills. In the demonic miasma mountain range, you could lack anything but miasma avoidance pills. Because Leng Shiqi's location had always been in the depths of the outer area, there was a lot of miasma, so miasma avoidance pills were consumed very quickly. Therefore, Leng Shiqi went back the way he came in. Unexpectedly, when he was only halfway back, he felt a strong wave of spiritual energy coming from nearby. He could vaguely hear the roars of demonic beasts. Someone is fighting with a demonic beast, Leng Shiqi thought to himself. His eyes flashed and he moved in that direction. This kind of thing was very common on the Blood Mist Island. However, before Leng Shiqi could get close, he felt a wave of heat. He looked carefully and saw 6 people fighting with a demonic beast. The demonic beast looked like a lion and a tiger, and its body was covered in a layer of faint blue flames. Leng Shiqi recognized that it was a rank 2 demonic beast, the astral flame beast. What surprised him was that there were 2 familiar faces among the 6 people. It was Cui Jing and Shi Yanjun. Leng Shiqi secretly guessed, could it be that Cui Jing and his wife formed another team? The mission this time is to kill the astral flame beast. However, when Leng Shiqi looked at the others, he was a little confused. The other 4 were relatively young and their cultivation was not high or low. More importantly, when they fought, their hands and feet were tied. Obviously, they did not have any experience in fighting with demonic beasts. With a single glance, it was obvious that the 4 of them were newcomers. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but recall the last time he came with Cui Jing and his wife. Including himself, Huyan Men, and Hong Xiang, it was their first time coming to the demonic miasma mountain range. If the first time was a coincidence, could the second time be a coincidence? Or was it that Cui Jing and his wife were willing to help others and specially went to help the newcomers? Impossible. Vaguely, Leng Shiqi had an ominous premonition. He concealed himself and continued to observe. The star flame beast was one of the most powerful rank 2 demonic beasts, and was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. Cui Jing and the other 5 finally killed it after 2 of them were injured. However, just as the star flame beast fell to the ground and died, Shi Yanjun suddenly made her move. She summoned 2 vines and tied the remaining 2 people up. The 2 of them were only at the middle stage of the spirit transformation realm. After the fierce battle with the star flame beast, they had already suffered heavy injuries and did not have much spirit energy left. They did not expect that Shi Yanjun, who was their teammate, would suddenly make a move on them. At the same time that they were trapped, Cui Jing waved his giant axe and chopped down. With a poochie sound, a head flew into the sky. The remaining person was so scared that his face turned pale. He shouted in panic, don't kill me, I am from the Qin family of Yongping County." When Cui Jing heard this, his face revealed a sinister expression. He said hatefully, I am going to kill you people from the sects and aristocratic families." Seeing Cui Jing walking over with a fiendish expression, he knew that he had already used his only trump card against the star flame beast. Now, he could only be slaughtered. Thus, he closed his eyes in despair. He only regretted that he did not listen to his family's advice and willfully came to the demonic miasma mountain range to prove himself. In the end, he died a tragic death. When Leng Shiqi saw this, he finally understood. It seemed that Cui Jing and his wife's real goal was not to hunt demonic beasts, but to use this as an excuse to bring those who had just come to the demonic miasma mountain range. Through the fierce battle with the demonic beasts, they would exhaust and weaken the strength of others. In the end, not only would they be able to harvest the demonic beasts, they would also be able to obtain a considerable amount of ill-gotten wealth. What a good plan! Leng Shiqi coldly snorted in his heart. He could tell that the people that Cui Jing and his wife brought were all from the spirit cultivation sects. This kind of person had very little combat experience, but they had a lot of good things on them. They were really fat sheep. And the reason why they brought him here last time was probably because they felt that he was older, which meant that he would accumulate more wealth. If they had not met the Zhu Rock beast last time, Cui Jing and his wife would have made a move on him. However, it was precisely because they met the Zhu Rock beast that Cui Jing and his wife were able to escape with their lives. Leng Shiqi looked at Cui Jing and his wife, his eyes revealing a cold killing intent. Killing these 2 people could be considered as getting rid of evil for the people. Just as he was about to make a move, a deep voice came from behind him. Leng Shiqi was secretly shocked and hurriedly burrowed into the ground. At this moment, the evil youth wearing a black and red robe walked over. He said with a mocking tone, "I heard that you like to kill sect disciples. Well, why don't you try killing me?" Cui Jing's raised axe froze in mid-air because he could not see the cultivation of the person who spoke. This meant that the other party was definitely an expert of the 4th realm of the Sky Realm. Not only him, there were 6 people behind that person. They were all wearing similar clothes, and all of them were at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm at such a young age. This was obviously a disciple from a large sect. Cui Jing knew that he had kicked an iron plate. He forced out a fake smile and said, "Brothers, you have misunderstood. I am Cui Jing. How should I address you? You are not worthy to know our names." The evil youth said this sentence without any trace of politeness. Then he saw the corpse of the star flame beast on the ground. Then he opened his hand, and the corpse of the star flame beast suddenly beat like a heart. Immediately after, the entire corpse of the star flame beast suddenly exploded. Viscous blood and smelly flesh splattered all over the place. Strangely, these things actually froze in midair. It was as if time had stopped. However, these things immediately began to condense and form a meatball. The meatball began to spin rapidly, and its size also rapidly shrank. In just a few blinks of an eye, the corpse of the star flame beast had been refined into a meatball the size of a head. The evil youth gently waved his hand, and the meatball flew over and was put into his mustard seed bag. This kind of unheard of method shocked Cui Jing and his wife. Leng Shiqi also said in surprise, "Beast essence devil technique? They are from the blood beast sect." Chapter 196. The blood beast sect's evil youth's move shocked Cui Jing, his wife, and Leng Shiqi. At this moment, Leng Shiqi was even more careful to restrain his aura. He also had the beast essence devil technique. It was said that similar techniques could sense each other. The evil youth looked at Cui Jing and said darkly, "Are you very familiar with the demonic miasma mountain range?" When Cui Jing heard this, he immediately realized that his chance of survival had come. He immediately nodded frantically. The evil youth's gaze turned to Shi Yanjun. Cui Jing's body moved slightly and faintly protected her behind him. He said, "She is my wife. We have been active in the demonic miasma mountain range for almost 10 years. I don't dare to boast, but I know the environment and terrain of the periphery like the back of my hand. If you have any orders, we are willing to serve you like dogs and horses." The evil youth nodded and didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at the Qin family disciple who was lucky to survive and asked, "What about you?" The Qin family disciple couldn't help but be stunned for a moment before saying, "I'm not familiar with this place." "Oh, then what's the use of having you?" the evil youth muttered to himself. Then, with a wave of his hand, 5 blood-colored claw shadows suddenly cut through the sky and instantly grabbed that person's throat. The Qin family disciple originally thought that he had escaped a disaster and was grateful to the people from the Blood Beast sect. He didn't expect that he would die in the hands of his savior. The evil youth smiled evilly at Cui Jing and said, "I also like to kill the disciples of sects and aristocratic families." Cui Jing secretly swallowed his saliva and nodded silently. The evil youth continued, "Take us to the border between the periphery and the inner area first." "Yes, please follow me." Cui Jing immediately bowed and led the few people to the depths of the periphery. After the few people walked away, Leng Shiqi appeared. He didn't follow. The appearance of the Blood Beast sect was as Sikong Shou of the Imperial Beast Abode had expected. However, the Imperial Beast Abode had obviously come prepared and had obtained a detailed map. On the other hand, the Blood Beast sect wanted to capture someone as a guide. There must be something fishy about the disciples of 2 top forces appearing here at the same time, but Leng Shiqi didn't have the time to care about other people's business. Besides, he didn't have the ability to do so. However, Leng Shiqi was a little surprised by the demonic young man's behavior. He thought of the 5 demonic cultivators he had met in Boiwanu's tomb. They were very crazy and extreme. Perhaps this was the reason why devil cultivators were not liked by others. After that, Leng Shiqi walked all the way out of the demon miasma mountain range. If he met any spirit cultivators, he would go around them. If he met any spirit beasts, he would kill them with lightning speed. When he walked out of the mountain range, there were already 2 more balls of spirit beasts. After returning to the city, Leng Shiqi replenished himself with a large amount of food and miasma repellent pills as quickly as possible. However, he was not in a hurry to go back because he knew that he had to rest and relax during cultivation. Although these 2 days hadn't been long, he had killed several rank 2 demonic beasts and refined their demonic blood to break through to the 8th level of the spirit transformation realm. Right now, he needed to stabilize himself. At this time, Leng Shiqi wandered the streets. Looking at one shop after another, he came up with a plan. He remembered that when he was in Shangyang City, he used the system's unlimited skill points to learn 2 rank 2 spirit skills for free. Shangyang City was only a small city and did not even have a single rank 3 spirit skill. However, Demon Suppressing Town was completely different. Not to mention other things, just the size of the city was equivalent to 10 Shangyang cities. Not to mention, everyone here was a spirit cultivator. Spirit cultivator shops were everywhere. There would definitely be rank 3 spirit skills. Thinking of this, Leng Shiqi turned into a nearby shop. After a while, Leng Shiqi walked out expressionlessly. As expected, this shop did indeed have rank 3 spirit skills, and there were quite a few of them. Unfortunately, the shop only gave him a brief introduction and a few essentials of the spirit skills. They did not take out the real ones, so he returned empty-handed. Of course, this was also within Leng Shiqi's expectations. He was not too disappointed. Following this, Ling Shiqi continued to walk to the next shop. When the sun set in the west and night fell, Ling Shiqi walked out of the last shop with a tired expression. However, there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. He spent more than half a day visiting all the shops that sold cultivation methods and spiritual techniques. In the end, more than 90% of the shops didn't show him the real deal. Even if he asked for them, they would not let him. Someone had also explained to him that someone had once used a secret technique to record everything they saw in an instant. That was why they couldn't show the real copy of any cultivation method or spiritual technique that was sold to customers. This was the case for most shops. However, there were always some that slipped through the net for Ling Shiqi. Those were the more remote shops. For example, the small shop behind Ling Shiqi was located in the most remote corner of demon-suppressing town. Usually, there were very few customers who could come here. When Ling Shiqi asked to see the real spirit skills, the shop owner hesitated but agreed in the end. In addition to the previous store, Ling Shiqi now had 3 more third-stage spiritual techniques in his repertoire of spiritual techniques. They were the Flying Rain Blade Technique, Silver Thread Thousand Brushing Hands, and Fire Symbol Technique. The Flying Rain Blade Technique was similar to the Extreme Shadow Blade Technique that he cultivated before. They were both fast blades. When cultivated to the extreme, the blade force would be as fierce as a torrential rain. Without using the half-moon rapid light slash, he had a good way to defend against enemies. The Silver Thread Thousand Brushing Hands was a special spirit skill. In fact, it was more suitable for female spirit cultivators to cultivate. When this spirit skill was cultivated to perfection, the attack would be like thousands of silver threads. It was a spirit skill that used softness to conquer strength. As for the Fire Symbol Technique, it was a very rare rank 3 spirit skill. Furthermore, it was a purely offensive spirit skill. It was just that this spirit skill could not be cultivated by normal spirit transformation realm spirit cultivators. Only those in the spirit pulse realm could fully grasp it. Ling Shiqi was very satisfied that he had earned 3 rank 3 spirit skills for free. Then, he casually found an inn to stay in and cultivated all 3 of his spiritual skills to the Great Circle realm. At noon the next day, Ling Shiqi packed up and left the inn, preparing to enter the demonic miasma mountain range again. However, when he arrived at the entrance of the inn, he saw a small group of people running over in a panic. Each of them was carrying a seriously injured person. They were probably going to seek help. The people beside him were also surprised and said, Isn't that the Green Shadow Squad? That's a slightly famous team. Why does it seem like they suffered heavy losses? I also just came back from the demonic miasma mountain range. You don't believe me, there were a few rank 3 spirit beasts in the outer area. I almost didn't make it back. Ling Shiqi's footsteps paused and he couldn't help but frown. Chapter 197. The people of the Blood Beast sect had just entered the demonic miasma mountain range, and then something like this happened. Ling Shiqi felt that this had something to do with the people of the Blood Beast sect and the Imperial Beast camp. However, although there were a few more rank 3 monsters in the periphery and it had become even more dangerous, Ling Shiqi still resolutely walked towards the entrance of the mountain range. He still remembered his purpose in coming to the demonic miasma mountain range, which was to hunt rank 2 monsters and refine their blood. He felt that as long as he didn't go deep into the mountain range, there shouldn't be any problems hunting monsters in the periphery. Moreover, he had the Byakugan, so he could observe the movements in the surroundings. He wasn't afraid of suddenly bumping into a rank 3 monster. When he arrived at the large square near the city gate, he found that there were significantly fewer people setting up stalls here. Moreover, there were many injured people entering the city. There was a faint tension in the air. Ling Shiqi was one of the few people who went against the flow. After entering the mountain range, he followed the familiar route on the system map. However, he didn't walk long before he encountered a rank 2 monster, which surprised him a little. Because this place was too close to the demon-suppressing city, it was reasonable to say that there shouldn't be any monsters here. However, Ling Shiqi didn't kill this monster. There were other spirit cultivators nearby. Some were coming in and some were going out. If he made too much noise, it would definitely attract others. He didn't want to expose his demonic beast essence technique. Therefore, he could only go around the monster and continue to walk inside. The more he walked, the more he found that he encountered monsters. There were many more monsters here than 2 days ago. He didn't know what caused it, and he didn't want to know. He only knew that his chance had come. Now that there were hardly any people around, he began his journey of hunting demonic beasts. Leng Shiqi, who was at the 8th level of the spirit transformation realm, was even stronger. His speed of killing monsters was even faster. In one day, he had killed a total of 4 rank 2 monsters. Moreover, each of them was killed with lightning speed. If this spread out, no one would believe it. One must know that usually, the demon hunters would only be able to kill a rank 2 demon beast by combining the strength of several people and using all of their means. If one wanted to hunt a rank 2 demonic beast alone, one would need to be a disciple of a large sect who was half a step into the spiritual pulse realm or a spiritual pulse realm expert. Of course, Leng Shiqi had never been so arrogant as to compare himself to a spirit pulse realm cultivator. It was just that the few moves he had comprehended were all very powerful, but he could only use these few moves over and over again. If he really fought with a spirit pulse stage cultivator, he could just hand over his 3 axes and think about how to escape. At night, the demonic miasma mountain range was even more dangerous. How to safely spend the night in the mountain range was the biggest headache for everyone who entered. But for Leng Shiqi, it was very simple. He found a relatively secluded place, directly sank deep into the ground, and opened up a small space, enough for him to spend the night peacefully. On this night, Leng Shiqi was refining a ball of demonic beast blood when he suddenly felt a faint fluctuation of spirit energy enter his body. Leng Shiqi frowned, but his heart was slightly shocked. He was currently deep underground, but the fluctuation of spirit energy was able to reach here. It could be imagined how strong it was. However, he did not stop and continued to refine the demonic beast blood, turning it into his own spirit energy. After a while, he finally completely refined the ball of demonic beast blood, but he was not very satisfied with the result. Perhaps it was because his cultivation was higher, but after refining a ball of rank 2 demonic beast blood, his spirit energy did not increase by much. At this rate, he would need to refine dozens of balls of demonic beast blood to reach the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. There was no lack of demonic beasts in the demonic miasma mountain range, so Leng Shiqi was not worried about not having enough demonic beast blood. What he was most worried about was time and the future. After all, the spirit energy obtained from refining demonic beast blood was not pure, so he needed to slowly refine it. He could only refine demonic beast blood once a day at most. At this rate, it would take him at least a month to break through to the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. Although this was already a very shocking progress, it was still too slow for Leng Shiqi. If this continued, how long would it take for him to reach the peak of the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm? Even if he reached the peak of the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm, there was still a huge bottleneck waiting for him. How would he break through? It has to be said that countless people were unable to break through that barrier their entire lives, so Leng Shiqi couldn't help but feel a bit anxious. Half a year was still too short. However, this was already the fastest method Leng Shiqi could think of. There was another unstable method, and that was the lottery. The last time Leng Shiqi drew a lottery, it was to assassinate Chu Xinran. Since then, he had been restraining himself. Even though he had plundered the resources of the Chinko Hall and hunted demonic beasts over the past few days and had more than 900 system coins, he did not draw a lottery. This was because drawing a lottery was addictive and torturous. Instead of drawing a lottery with a little bit of system coins, it was better to save up and draw 10 times in a row. It was said that the probability would be higher. It's only been a few days. Let's wait a bit more. Maybe there will be a turn for the better in the future. If it really doesn't work, I'll draw a lottery. Leng Shiqi thought to himself. Then, he planned to refine his spirit energy. However, at this moment, an even more violent spirit energy fluctuation came from above his head. Even the ground shook a few times. Ling Shiqi's expression became serious. To be able to cause this kind of fluctuation, it had to be an expert at the 4th level of the sky realm. He immediately opened his supercilious eyes and looked up. In his field of vision, dozens of spirit energy balls of different sizes suddenly appeared. Half of them were humans, and the other half were beasts. The strange thing was that this was not a spirit cultivator fighting a demonic beast, but a human fighting another human, a beast fighting another beast. Among them, there were undoubtedly 4 spirit energies that were the most powerful, and they all had the enormous spirit energy of the spirit pulse realm. Seeing this, Ling Shiqi suddenly thought of a possibility. This is a fight between the people of the Imperial Beast Camp and the Blood Beast sect. However, haven't they already entered the inner region? Why are they fighting here? Although Ling Shiqi was shocked, he did not dare to show his head at this time. He even stayed a little further away and silently observed from the edge of the supercilious eye's field of vision. The Imperial Beast Camp and the Blood Beast sect were both top forces that were proficient in the art of controlling beasts. The strength of the disciples of both sides was also on par, but the Blood Beast sect had one more spirit cultivator at the spirit transformation realm than the Imperial Beast Camp. If it was a fight between ordinary sects, one more spirit cultivator at the spirit transformation realm would not affect the overall situation. However, this was the Blood Beast sect. This was not only a spirit cultivator at the spirit transformation realm, but also a second-rank blood beast. The situation was not good for the Imperial Beast Camp. At this time, Ling Shiqi accidentally discovered that there was a dying demonic beast lying next to their fighting range. Moreover, the aura of the demonic beast was very familiar to Ling Shiqi. It was the Red Crag Beast. Chapter 198. Ling Shiqi noticed that the Red Crag Beast was breathing out more than it was inhaling, and a bold idea suddenly popped up in his mind. Since the blood of a rank 2 monster did not increase his spiritual power by much, what about a rank 3 monster? Thinking of this, Ling Shiqi's heart suddenly became excited. Not only that, but the corpse of a rank 3 monster was also worth a lot of system coins, and Ling Shiqi valued the monster core of the Red Crag Beast the most. The 2 beast essence battle patterns on his body were both from rank 2 monsters, which had already greatly increased his combat power. During this period of time, he also had about 10 rank 2 monster cores in his hands, but he was unwilling to give up the spiritual ruin Beast King's beast essence battle pattern for the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile. However, if he had the rank 3 monster core of the Red Crag Beast, then he would not have to worry so much. This Red Crag Beast was clearly a monster with extremely strong defense, and could be used to replace the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile's beast essence battle pattern. Just the thought of having the Red Crag Beast's beast essence battle pattern made Ling Shiqi feel an inexplicable excitement. He had decided to do it this time. However, a problem came with it. If he wanted to snatch the Red Crag Beast from the disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp and Blood Beast sect, it was undoubtedly like pulling chestnuts out of the fire. He had to think of a foolproof plan. As Ling Shiqi observed their battle, his eyes flickered with a bright light. The safest way he thought of was to quietly take the Red Crag Beast away without anyone noticing. Generally speaking, monsters could not be put into mustard seed bags, unless it was a special spirit beast bag. Spirit beast bags were extremely precious, and only the disciples of the Imperial Beast Camp had them. The Red Crag Beast could not be directly put into the system space either, and the system space could only store inanimate objects. So what Ling Shiqi had to do was to kill the dying Red Crag Beast as quickly as possible when no one was paying attention, and then put it into the system space. With a plan, Ling Shiqi began to act. On the ground, the people of the Imperial Beast Camp and Blood Beast sect were fighting fiercely. The scene of the disciples of these 2 factions fighting was really big. There weren't many of them, only 11 people in total. But if there were 11 demonic beasts, and 2 of them were third-order demonic beasts, then the situation would be completely different. The destructive power of the 11 demonic beasts could only be described as terrifying. Within a radius of several tens of meters, the plants and trees were sent flying, and the ground was filled with deep craters. It was simply a terrible sight to behold. Such a shocking movement would naturally be noticed by many people, but no one in the surroundings dared to approach. They had already run as far away as possible for fear of being affected. The most intense battle was between Sikong Shou, who was at the spiritual pulse realm, and the evil youth. Sikong Shou's hands pointed out repeatedly. His fingers shone with a faint starlight. Every time he pointed out, a starlight would shoot out. Beside him was a tier 3 giant wolf demonic beast. The giant wolf demonic beast's body also had specks of starlight that reflected off Sikong Shou's brilliance. As for his opponent, the evil youth, he was not at a disadvantage at all. He had 5 claws, and each of his 10 fingernails were more than 3 inches long. Facing Sikong Shou's starlight finger force, he waved his arms, sending out blood-colored claw shadows that tore apart the finger force. Beside him, there was also a demonic beast that was fighting with Sikong Shou's giant wolf demonic beast. However, this demonic beast was very special and was more familiar to Ling Shiqi. That demonic beast did not have any beast skin on its body, revealing its flesh and meridians. It was as if a layer of its skin had been peeled off. However, this demonic beast's body was covered in a dense blood-colored light. To a certain extent, it was actually suppressing Sikong Shou's giant wolf demonic beast. Sikong Shou knew that the blood beast sex blood beasts had always been very powerful. He also admitted that his starry night wolf king was a bit weaker than the other party's blood beast. He looked again. In the battle between the spirit transformation realm disciples, they were already lacking 1 person and 1 beast. They were completely at a disadvantage. At this moment, Sikong Shou said in a deep voice, "Zhuoduanya, you and I are only here to find clues about the great demon. Why do we have to fight to the death over a Zhu crag beast?" The evil youth, Zhuoduanya, coldly smiled and said, "What a joke. That Zhu crag beast was originally discovered by us and was heavily injured by us. You people from the Imperial Beast Camp want to take it away as soon as you come and say that the demonic beast is your friend. Don't disgust me. What, now that you can't beat me, you want to leave? Even if I can't kill you, I can still be happy for a few days after injuring you." Hearing this, Sikong Shou's face became even darker. He said, "Zhuoduanya, do you mean that we won't rest until one of us dies?" "We will not rest until one of us dies." Zhuoduanya growled and attacked even more fiercely. As the eldest disciple of the Imperial Beast Camp's younger generation, Sikong Shou was also the first to break through to the Spirit Pulse realm. He also had some pride in his heart. Now that he was being humiliated by Zhuoduanya like this, boundless anger surged out from his chest. He put 3 of his fingers together and released a starlight finger that was as thick as an arm. The battle between the two became even more intense. Just as they were fighting until the sky turned dark, 2 muffled sounds suddenly came from the Zhu crag beast's body. The Zhu crag beast also growled. However, in this battlefield, the roars of demonic beasts and the sounds of weapons and spiritual skills clashing could be heard everywhere. No one noticed this sound. In a situation where no one was aware, 2 waves of inner strength broke into the Zhu crag beast's body. However, this Zhu crag beast not only had a shocking defense on the outside, even its internal organs were extraordinary. Those 2 waves of inner strength did not cause too much damage to it. Soon after, a strong spiritual energy fluctuation suddenly erupted from under the Zhu crag beast's body. A huge cross-shaped brilliance drilled out from the ground and pierced a huge wound on the Zhu crag beast's body. This kind of movement finally attracted the attention of a few people nearby. When they turned their heads, they saw a strange, silver-white, muscular man break out from the ground. That muscular man's left hand turned into a pitch-black ghost claw. Demonic chi rose from the ghost claw and a cold wind whistled. It even carried a trace of killing intent. The demonic claw still ruthlessly tore open the red crag beast's wound, tearing off large chunks of flesh and blood. Immediately after, a purple half-moon bloomed in the dark night. However, This half-moon was a blade full of sharpness. The purple crescent sword chi deeply cut into the Zhu crag beast's body and strangled its remaining life force. At this moment, the people nearby finally reacted. Especially the disciples of the Imperial Beast Abode. Their original intention was not to kill the Zhu crag beast, but to bring it back and nurture it. They immediately gave up on their original opponents and rushed over together. However, just as they approached, more than 10 sharp earth spikes pierced out from the ground. This immediately made them a little flustered. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ling Shiqi withdrew his sword chi and easily pierced the Zhu crag beast's flesh. Immediately after, a dozen waves of sword chi burst out and finally extinguished its last trace of life. At the same time, he waved his hand and put the Zhu crag beast's corpse into the system space. Immediately after, he exploded with his fastest speed and turned around to escape. Chapter 199. From the moment Ling Shiqi activated the dual beast origin battle patterns to the moment he took the red crag beast's corpse and fled, all of this happened in the span of a few breaths. The Imperial Beast Abode disciples who had caught up immediately shouted, "Who dares to steal our Imperial Beast Abode's spirit beasts?" This voice naturally reached Sikong Shou and Zhuoduanya's ears. The two of them were in the midst of a fierce battle, and when they heard this, they turned around and saw the silhouette of a silver-white brawny man quickly leaving. They sensed that the person was only at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. Zhuoduanya was immediately enraged and roared, "How dare you pull a tooth from the tiger's mouth? I'll tear you apart." Even though Sikong Shou had a high level of cultivation, he was still shocked and angry at this moment. He whistled softly, and the Starry Night Wolf King, who was still fighting fiercely with the blood beasts, retreated from the battlefield and arrived beside Sikong Shou with a few leaps. Sikong Shou mounted the Starry Night Wolf King and directly turned into a streak of starlight as he chased after the wolf. In a few blinks of an eye, he overtook Zhuoduanya. The Starry Night Wolf King could not compare to Zhuoduanya's blood beasts in a frontal battle, but its speed was far superior. Ling Shiqi opened his supercilious eyes and immediately noticed Sikong Shou and the Starry Night Wolf King speeding over. Being chased by a Spirit Pulse Realm expert and a Rank 3 demonic beast, his heart could not help but rise to his throat. In just a few breaths of time, the distance between them was rapidly shrinking. However, since he dared to do such a thing, he must have made some preparations. 2 small balls of demonic aura appeared in Ling Shiqi's hands, and the demonic aura instantly condensed into 4 flying daggers. He did not even look and directly shot the 4 flying daggers behind him. When Sikong Shou saw the 4 flying daggers, his eyes flashed with contempt and disgust. Because the Imperial Beast Abode and the Blood Beast sect had been fighting non-stop, the disciples of the Imperial Beast Abode had always hated demonic cultivators. 4 flying daggers flew over in an instant. Sikong Shou flicked his finger, and a finger force similar to starlight surged out, directly smashing the 4 devil chi flying daggers into pieces. However, the 4 flying daggers did not dissipate after being shattered. Instead, a large amount of black devil chi exploded in the air. The devil chi was not dangerous at all, but it completely enveloped Sikong Shou and the Starry Night Wolf King, blocking their vision. Of course, Ling Shiqi knew that his devouring light flying dagger would be useless against a Spirit Pulse Realm cultivator and a Rank 3 monster beast. Therefore, after throwing out the flying dagger, he released all the devil chi he had gathered and drilled into the ground. After sinking to the ground, Ling Shiqi didn't dare to stop at all. He continued to dive at the fastest speed and observed Sikong Shou's movements with his supercilious eyes. Sikong Shou was enveloped by the devil chi. With a wave of his arm, a majestic spiritual power surged out and formed a hurricane around him, blowing away all the devil chi. But at this moment, the silvery muscular man was no longer in his sight. Sikong Shou's handsome face was as gloomy as water. He patted the Starry Night Wolf King, and the Wolf King immediately jumped to the place where the Ling Shiqi had burrowed into the ground and howled. You're saying that he disappeared here?" Sikong Shou understood what the Starry Night Wolf King meant, but when he looked around, he didn't see anyone. At this moment, his eyes flashed. Since there was no one around and he couldn't have gone up to the sky, then he could only have gone underground. The spiritual power in Sikong Shou's body circulated at the fastest speed. Starlight flashed around his body, illuminating the night sky. He flicked his 10 fingers and 10 rays of starlight shot into the ground. Leng Shiqi sensed the 10 rays of dangerous energy through his supercilious eyes. He quickly moved out of the ground and ran forward. Sikong Shou's 10 rays of energy shot into the ground, but the rocks under the ground continued to wear down the energy. When the rays of energy reached the place where the Leng Shiqi was, they dissipated. Leng Shiqi was already several feet away and completely avoided the 10 rays of starlight energy. On the ground, Sikong Shou was still carefully sensing his own energy. However, when he realized that the energy didn't hit anyone, his expression became even uglier. At this moment, Zhuoduanya finally arrived. When he saw Sikong Shou's expression, he knew that he didn't catch up. He immediately mocked, "Oh, the leader of the younger generation of the Imperial Beast Camp can't even catch up to a little spirit transformation realm cultivator. You really live up to your name." No matter how good Sikong Shou's temper was, he still shouted, "What, do you want to fight again?" Zhuoduanya saw that he had completely angered Sikong Shou and felt extremely carefree. However, since the Zhu Crag beast was already stolen, there was no need for them to continue fighting. After all, they didn't come to the Demon Miasma mountain range to kill each other. They had more important things to do. Although Zhuoduanya didn't have the intention to continue fighting, when he thought about how the Zhu Crag beast was stolen right under their noses, he couldn't help but feel angry. However, even Sikong Shou's Starry Night Wolf King couldn't catch up to that person, so he definitely couldn't. He could only secretly remember the silvery white man's figure. If he met him again in the future, he would definitely make him suffer a fate worse than death. However, he also felt a little strange. He actually felt that the aura of the sturdy man was a little familiar, but he couldn't figure it out for a while. In the end, Zhuoduanya and Sikong Shou exchanged a few words before leaving with their own people. Leng Shiqi, who had stolen the Zhu Crag beast's corpse, had been moving stealthily underground. He only stopped when he had used up more than half of his spirit energy. Along the way, his heart had been beating very fast. He was afraid that the other party had some special method to lock onto his aura or tracks. At this point, he had almost run out of the Demon Miasma mountain range. He knew that the people from the Imperial Beast Camp and the Blood Beast sect were searching for something in the mountain range and wouldn't easily come out. Only then did he feel relieved. However, when he saw the corpse of the Zhu Crag beast in his system backpack, his heart began to burn with passion again. His actions this time could be said to be snatching food from a tiger's mouth. Fortunately, he had a lot of strange methods on him. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so smooth. Leng Shiqi then recovered his spirit energy underground and opened up a room-sized space underground. With a thought, the Zhu Crag beast's rock-like corpse appeared in the space. Leng Shiqi's hands formed a seal, and a thick pillar of blood spurted out from the Zhu Crag beast's wound. After a full 15 minutes, Leng Shiqi's face was covered in sweat. Only then did he condense the Zhu Crag beast's demon blood. He held the ball of demon blood that was so red that it was turning black. Feeling the majestic spirit energy contained in it, he felt a wave of comfort in his heart. After putting away the demon blood, he took out a dagger and dug out the reddish-brown demon core of the Zhu Crag beast. Finally, he sold its corpse to the system for 73 system coins. At this point, the Zhu Crag beast had completely disappeared from this world. Chapter 200. Leng Shiqi looked at the extra 73 system coins and his heart skipped a beat. He remembered the black bruiser egg that he picked up a few days ago at the demon-suppressing town square. That item was worth 273 system coins. Now that a rank 3 monster's corpse was only worth 73 system coins, the black bruiser egg was probably a rank 4 or even rank 5 monster. However, Leng Shiqi had never had the time or the mood to study it, so he could only leave it to collect dust. His top priority was to refine the Red Crag Beast's monster blood and refine the new Beast Origin battle pattern. To refine the Beast Origin battle pattern, he had to remove the original battle pattern. This was a relatively long process and could not be rushed, so Ling Shiqi decided to refine the Red Crag Beast's monster blood first. He first adjusted his body to the best state, then raised his head and swallowed the rank 3 monster blood. This was the first time he had refined the monster blood of a rank 3 monster. There was a world of difference between a rank 3 monster and a rank 2 monster. It was like the insurmountable gap between the spirit transformation realm and the spirit pulse realm. Therefore, the violent spiritual power contained in the rank 3 monster blood was a bit beyond Ling Shiqi's expectations. The moment the monster blood entered his body, it exploded in an instant. The violent and raging spiritual power rampaged through Ling Shiqi's body, causing his face to twist in pain. However, his willpower was far stronger than ordinary people, and he had 2 rank 4 cultivation techniques. Faced with this situation, Ling Shiqi used the 7 Fiend Blood Art to guide the violent spiritual power. The 7 Fiend Blood Art was a cultivation technique that was good at controlling blood. Under Ling Shiqi's control, the spiritual power in the monster blood was guided into his dantian bit by bit, thus transforming it into his own spiritual power. However, this process was very slow and filled with endless pain. Especially when the monster blood's spiritual power flowed through Ling Shiqi's meridians, his meridians were about to explode. At this time, Ling Shiqi was doing 3 things at once. At the same time, he was using the 9 nether magic pattern to protect his meridians. But in this way, Ling Shiqi's mind was rapidly consumed. Fortunately, Ling Shiqi had plenty of experience in refining demonic blood. He knew that the most difficult part was the beginning period. As long as he could endure it, the power of the demonic blood would become weaker and weaker, while his spiritual energy would become stronger and stronger. Sooner or later, he would be able to completely refine it. Therefore, the Ling Shiqi, who was hiding in the dark underground, endured the inhuman pain alone in order to increase his strength. Gradually, the power of the Red Crag Beast's blood began to weaken, and Ling Shiqi slowly took control of the situation in his body. Everything was progressing in a good direction. More than 2 hours later, Ling Shiqi was already sweating profusely, and his clothes were soaked in sweat. Exhaustion was written all over his face, but his eyes were abnormally bright. Ling Shiqi let out a breath of turbid air and smiled with satisfaction. Although refining the Red Crag Beast's demonic blood was very difficult and painful, it was fortunate that he had 2 rank 4 cultivation methods and rich experience, so he was able to get through it without any danger. Now, the spiritual energy in Ling Shiqi's body had increased by a lot compared to 2 hours ago. He roughly estimated that the Red Crag Beast's demonic blood was equivalent to more than 10 balls of demonic blood from rank 2 demonic beasts. He estimated that as long as he refined a few more balls of demonic blood from rank 2 demonic beasts, he would be able to cultivate to the peak of the 8th level of the spirit transformation realm. It could be said that the Red Crag Beast's demonic blood had saved him nearly a month of time. Although this was the case, Ling Shiqi was not very happy. This was because the spiritual energy he obtained from refining the demonic blood was not pure enough. He would have to spend a few days slowly purifying it. In the following few days, Ling Shiqi obediently stayed underground to polish his spiritual energy. At the same time, he avoided the people from the Imperial Beast Abode and the Blood Beast sect. He did not even show his face. He stole the Red Crag Beast under the noses of the 2 top forces. This matter would definitely be remembered by their disciples, so he needed to avoid the limelight first. In addition, in these few days, even though he was underground, he could occasionally feel a few powerful spiritual energy fluctuations. These were clearly spiritual energy fluctuations that only Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators or rank 3 demonic beasts could emit. One had to know that his location was actually very close to the demon-suppressing town. In this location, rank 2 demonic beasts rarely appeared, but now, rank 3 demonic beasts frequently appeared. This meant that something must have happened in the Demon Miasma mountain range. He could also return to the demon-suppressing town, but he did not have any sources of information in the city. Instead of listening to all kinds of rumors in the city, he might as well rely on his supercilious eyes to observe silently from underground. On this day, Ling Shiqi finally purified the spiritual energy he obtained from refining the demonic blood. However, compared to his own spiritual energy, it was still slightly inferior. This was something that could not be helped. After all, he relied on external objects to obtain his spiritual energy. Then, Ling Shiqi took off his shirt, revealing the beast origin battle pattern of the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile on his chest. What he needed to do now was to first remove the beast origin battle pattern. According to the demonic beast origin technique, before replacing the beast origin battle pattern, the old battle pattern had to be erased, and this process was not easy to bear. Ling Shiqi closed his eyes and used the method to erase the beast origin battle pattern. He saw the pattern of the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile on his chest slowly fade. The aura on his body was also gradually weakening. This feeling of strength weakening was an indescribable pain. After a short while, the pattern of the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodile completely disappeared. Ling Shiqi took out the reddish-brown demonic core of the red crag beast. His eyes were filled with anticipation as he swallowed it. After swallowing the demonic core directly turned into countless reddish-brown light spots that surged into his flesh. It was as if there were countless spikes piercing into his body. Ling Shiqi immediately activated the netherworld demonic pattern and began to actively absorb these light spots. He was using the power of the demonic core to temper his body. He had long thought that the power of the red crag beast's demonic core was probably more violent than the demonic blood, so he had a plan. Taking this opportunity to temper his body with the power of the demonic core, he could also greatly reduce the danger of refining the beast origin battle pattern. It was killing two birds with one stone. In this case, Ling Shiqi's physical strength was constantly improving, and the pattern of the red crag beast began to appear on his chest. The process was actually smoother than refining the demonic blood. As time passed, the pattern of the red crag beast became clearer and clearer. When it was completely completed, Ling Shiqi's body underwent a huge change. Ling Shiqi's body grew layers of reddish-brown, rock-like strange substances. These things completely wrapped him up and finally formed a heavy armor. Chapter 201. After successfully refining the beast origin battle pattern, Ling Shiqi's entire body was suddenly covered in a rock-like reddish-brown armor. From the appearance, this armor was 60 to 70% similar to the Zhu crag beast's, and the helmet was almost the same as the Zhu crag beast's head. Ling Shiqi didn't expect that the Zhu crag beast's beast origin battle pattern could directly condense into armor. He gently knocked on his arm, and suddenly, there was a dang-dang sound. Bang! He clenched his fist, and a rank 2 dagger appeared in his hand. He raised the dagger and fiercely stabbed down. With a kacha sound, a crack appeared on the tip of the dagger. Hiss! Ling Shiqi couldn't help but exclaim, "It's that strong?" Immediately, he circulated his spirit power, and the dagger suddenly shone with a faint light. Ling Shiqi stabbed his left arm again. This time, the dagger and the armor clashed, producing a clanging sound. The dagger left a small white dot on the armor, and the cracks on the dagger increased. Seeing this scene, Ling Shiqi was pleasantly surprised. He had also predicted that the Zhu crag beast's beast origin battle pattern would be better than the silver-scaled fire-armored crocodiles, but he never expected it to be this strong. This was the beast origin battle pattern of a rank 3 monster. However, just as Ling Shiqi was rejoicing, a slight feeling of exhaustion came from his body. His expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly removed the beast origin battle pattern. The armor on his body also disappeared, and the feeling of exhaustion eased a little. Ling Shiqi couldn't help but frown again, and muttered, "How long has it been since I activated the Zhu crag beast's beast origin battle pattern? Isn't this consumption too great?" After he successfully refined the beast origin battle pattern, it automatically activated. After that, he tested the hardness of the armor, and it only took a dozen breaths of time for him to feel exhausted. Moreover, when he refined the beast origin battle pattern, he also used the power of the monster core to temper his body. Now, his body was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the middle stage of the pure spirit realm. But even so, it couldn't support the consumption of the beast origin battle pattern. The rank 3 demonic beasts beast origin battle runes were indeed powerful, but the price to pay was not small either. Leng Shiqi said helplessly, "It seems that the red crag beast's beast yuan battle pattern can only be used as a last resort." Of course, Leng Shiqi was already very satisfied. After refining the demonic blood and refining the beast chi battle runes, his cultivation and strength had improved. Then, he subconsciously activated his supercilious eyes, trying to see if there were any demonic beasts around. However, he immediately withdrew his supercilious gaze and broke out in a cold sweat. Just now, in his white eye's vision, he saw 8 extremely large balls of spirit energy. Even the weakest among them had a cultivation that far exceeded the spirit pulse realm. One of them had spiritual energy so dense that it was as terrifying as a volcano that was about to erupt. What was even more frightening was that Leng Shiqi noticed that the man actually stopped and looked down. Leng Shiqi was secretly shocked. Did he discover me? He immediately used the breath-concealing technique to reduce his aura to the lowest level, feeling uneasy. On the ground, there was a group of 8 people walking past. These 8 people were all wearing black and red robes. They were from the Blood Beast sect. The one walking at the front was a middle-aged man with white hair. He had a mustache and looked a little sinister. As he walked, his footsteps suddenly stopped. He looked down and let out a soft cry of surprise. The person beside him bowed and asked, "Elder Xie, did you find something?" Elder Xie said in a serious voice, "It's a bit strange. Just now, I suddenly felt that someone was watching us." That gaze flashed by, and the source seemed to be underground. Could it be that the people of the Imperial Beast sect set up a formation? That's possible. That group of sanctimonious people only know how to play such small tricks. Don't worry about it. With me here, they won't be able to do anything. Elder Xie snorted coldly and continued to lead the people of the Blood Beast sect forward. Leng Shiqi waited anxiously underground for a long time, but nothing happened. Only then did he feel relieved. Ever since he had the supercilious eye, he had been using it very smoothly. Only when he was in the tomb of Boiwanhu was the formation limited the supercilious eye's ability to see through things. But today, Leng Shiqi finally understood what it meant by "there was always someone better than you." Even if he hid underground and used the supercilious eye to investigate, he could still be detected. This meant that the supercilious eye was still flawed. For a true powerhouse, they were extremely sensitive to everything related to them, even if it was just a gaze. At this moment, Leng Shiqi still had some lingering fear. If he hadn't reacted quickly just now and retracted the supercilious eye, he might have really been caught by that powerhouse. This unexpected incident instantly shattered his joy of refining the beast origin battle pattern. At the same time, he also felt that a major change was about to happen in the demonic miasma mountain range. He just hoped that it wouldn't affect him. He just wanted to hunt a few rank 2 monsters here. Then he directly followed the system map underground to a remote part of the mountain range. There were very few rank 2 monsters here, but it wasn't like there weren't any. Leng Shiqi stayed here and refined the monster blood to increase his strength while hunting monsters to replenish his monster blood. Time passed day by day. After 9 days, Leng Shiqi's cultivation finally broke through to the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. However, after reaching the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm, the amount of monster blood could increase his cultivation was even less. Fortunately, he still had plenty of time. Combined with spirit stones and pills, his progress wasn't slow. As time passed, more and more rank 3 monsters appeared in the periphery, and Leng Shiqi's range of activity became smaller and smaller. 2 months later, Leng Shiqi finally couldn't stay in the demonic miasma mountain range any longer. This was because the periphery was now filled with rank 3 monsters. Although there were more rank 2 monsters, Leng Shiqi couldn't find a chance to kill them. If he dared to rashly kill a rank 2 monster, it would definitely attract more rank 3 monsters. More importantly, he no longer had any monster blood. Now that he couldn't replenish it and was surrounded by danger, he could only return to the demon-suppressing town to think of a way. Thus, he carefully returned to the entrance of the demonic Miasma mountain range. However, he didn't expect to be stopped by 6 people. Most of the 6 people were at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm, and they all stared at Ling Shiqi with malicious intent. Ling Shiqi narrowed his eyes at the 6 people and said in a hoarse voice, "Why are you stopping this old man?" A burly man among the 6 shouted, "Old man, hand over everything you have and we'll spare your old life." Ling Shiqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There were actually people who wanted to rob him, and they even wanted to rob him. Chapter 202. Ling Shiqi looked at the 6 people who robbed him expressionlessly as if he was looking at 6 dead people. The bearded man became angry when he saw Ling Shiqi ignore him and look at him with such a gaze. He pulled out the large blade on his back and shouted, "Old man, what a pity. Now you don't even have the chance to beg for mercy. Kill him." The bearded man waved his hand and the 5 people behind him pulled out their spirit weapons. Waves of spirit energy spread out and various spirit techniques attacked Ling Shiqi. The bearded man held his large blade, but his blade was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Ling Shiqi. However, Ling Shiqi was still expressionless as he said, "Your blade is quite fast." The bearded man heard this and snorted, "It's too late to flatter, you old man who doesn't know what's good for you." At this moment, the other 5 people also surrounded him. Ling Shiqi held the hilt of his blade and said, "But my blade is faster." Before Ling Shiqi finished speaking, there was a zing sound as he unsheathed his blades. In an instant, hundreds of light purple blade shadows poured out like a torrential rain. This was the peak stage rank 3 blade technique, the flying rain blade technique. Under the hundreds of blade shadows, the 6 people, including the bearded man, were all shocked. They could only bitterly defend as the sound of metal clashing echoed around them. After 2 or 3 breaths of time, the blade shadows dissipated and blade marks appeared on the 6 people's bodies. Not only did this move resolve the attacks of the 6 spirit transformation realm cultivators, but it also turned defense into offense, injuring the 6 people at the same time. At this moment, Ling Shiqi's aura changed as well. A few faint traces of crimson blood energy appeared around his body. Even his eyes had a hint of blood color. During this period of time, Ling Shiqi had killed an unknown number of second-order demonic beasts and refined an unknown amount of demonic blood. In fact, his body had long been hiding a dense baleful aura. Now that he had the intention to kill, that murderous aura was stirred up. The bearded man saw Ling Shiqi's killing intent and felt a chill down his spine. He knew that he had bitten a hard bone this time. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to escape. He suddenly thought of a plan. He planned to encourage the others to continue attacking the strong cultivators while he took the opportunity to escape. However, just as he opened his mouth, before he could speak, one person had already started running. Ling Shiqi glanced at the man who was running away. Then, he stretched out a finger. Suddenly, a flame burst out from the tip of his finger. He drew a line in front of him, and actually drew the word 1 in midair. Ling Shiqi's finger moved slightly, and the 1 character formed by flames shot out like a sharp arrow. In the blink of an eye, it pierced through the back of the fleeing person. The man screamed and fell to the ground, unable to get up. However, the flames on his body were still burning, and a burnt smell drifted over. The remaining 5 people were all ashen. The little old man standing in front of them was not only terrifying with his saber skills, but he was also a spiritual caster. How unlucky were they to rob such a person? Ling Shiqi did not turn his head to look at the dead man. His finger moved again and wrote up fire character in the air. This fire character was completely formed by flames. Just by floating there, it made them feel incomparably hot. Rank 3 spiritual skill, fire. Ling Shiqi said, hand over everything you have and I'll spare your lives. Hearing this, the bearded man's face stiffened. Wasn't this what Ling Shiqi had just said? Between them, the hunter and the prey, their identities had changed in this short period of time. The bearded man knew that Ling Shiqi would not let him go and he would not hand over his things. Since it had come to this, he could only fight to the death. He immediately shouted, "Don't be stupid, do you really think he will let you go? Let's attack together." However, before he could finish his sentence, the fire character floating in the air flew over with a blazing heat wave. The bearded man had been on guard for a long time, but when he wanted to dodge, 3 earthen walls the size of half a door suddenly appeared on his left, right, and back, surrounding him. The bearded man had nowhere to retreat and revealed a look of despair. The fire character was like a fiery beast that devoured him. The bearded man was burned into a pile of charcoal amidst the wails and screams of agony. The remaining 4 people were so scared that their legs trembled. They were among the stronger spirit transformation realm cultivators and had some ability. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dared to rob here so blatantly. However, they never thought that spirit transformation realm cultivators could be so strong. If they were given another chance to live, they would never dare to rob an old man again. This old man will say it again. Hand over everything. Ling Shiqi moved his fingers and wrote the word 1 in the flame again as he said coldly. I'll give. Sir, you are my grandfather. This little one was blinded by others to do such a thing. Spare me, I don't want to die. 3 of them began to beg for mercy. Only a middle-aged man with a blue birthmark on his face muttered, ignorant. No matter how much we beg for mercy, he will not let us go. Ling Shiqi naturally heard this. He gently waved his arm and 3 characters shot toward the other 3. Although the 3 of them were begging for mercy, they never let down their guard. When they saw the flames shoot toward them, they quickly dodged. However, unbeknownst to them, a layer of ice had appeared beneath their feet and froze their feet. This layer of ice was not very thick, but the bone-chilling cold invaded their legs and froze their meridians, making them unable to move for a while. In this short instant, the 3 flames had already pierced through their vitals. After Ling Shiqi had cultivated the 3rd-level spiritual skill, fire symbol technique, to the perfection stage, his mind was filled with many more insights on how to use spiritual skills. Thus, he became more adept and nimble in using the previous few spiritual skills. Up until now, only one of the 6 people who came to rob him was left in the blink of an eye, and only a short while had passed. At this moment, the middle-aged man with the birthmark said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Senior's methods are truly superb." Ling Shiqi felt that this person was very interesting. He knew that he was about to die, but he could still remain so calm. Just this alone was not something the other 5 could compare to. Ling Shiqi said, "What is your name?" "Yang Jingqi." "Answer a few of this old man's questions and you might be able to live." Chapter 203. Yang Jingqi said, "Since I'm going to die anyway, why should I answer your question?" Ling Shiqi shook his head and retracted the last flame. He formed a spirit seal and summoned a blood-colored centipede that was as thick as an arm. The blood-colored centipede flashed and entered Yang Jingqi's body, gnawing on his flesh and blood. Yang Jingqi's entire body trembled and began to spasm. Yang Jingqi was in so much pain that he was sweating profusely, but he still gritted his teeth and said, "I only want to die quickly." Ling Shiqi's spirit seal changed and he controlled the centipede curse to stop. Yang Jingqi's complexion became better and he said, "This old man said just now, as long as you answer my question, you may not die, but you have to be my slave for 3 months. This centipede curse will be sealed in your body for 3 months, after that, you can leave on your own." Yang Jingqi was originally so unyielding because he was prepared to die, but now, a trace of life appeared in front of him, causing his will to be less firm. Even if what the other party said was false, he could still live for 3 more months. People in desperate situations may be able to explode with unimaginable strength and willpower, but if there was a way out, most people would still choose to retreat. Yang Jingqi was like this. He hesitated for a moment and sighed, "Ask away." Leng Shiqi secretly smiled and asked, "In this period of time, did anything special happen in the demon-suppressing town and the demonic miasma mountain range?" Yang Jingqi first looked at Leng 17 suspiciously, and then said honestly, "Since 2 months ago, a few rank 3 demonic beasts suddenly appeared in the periphery of the demonic miasma mountain range, causing many elite demonic hunter squads to suffer heavy losses. This matter also attracted the attention of many people at the beginning, and the number of people entering the mountain range decreased by a lot. However, more than half of the spirit cultivators in the demon-suppressing town rely on hunting monsters for a living. In order to survive, they still have to enter the mountain range. But that time, less than 30% of the people who entered the mountain range returned. The reason was that rank 3 monsters were appearing one after another like bamboo shoots after a rain. The entire demon-suppressing town suddenly became tense, and about a month ago, the Imperial Beast House and Blood Beast sect of the world ranking released news that there might be a beast tide in the demonic miasma mountain range. Beast tide? Leng Shiqi paused when he heard this. He could understand what the beast tide meant. But according to his observation in the demonic miasma mountain range for so long, although there were many rank 3 demonic beasts in the periphery, they didn't seem to have any intention of coming out of the mountain range. From Leng Shiqi's point of view, it was more likely that they were chased out by something from the inner region. Moreover, the news of the beast tide was spread by the Imperial Beast Camp and the Blood Beast sect. This made Leng Shiqi even more suspicious. He asked, "You believe the news released by the Imperial Beast Abode and the Blood Beast sect?" Yang Jingqi was a little surprised and replied, "Both of them are top sects that are unreachable, and both of them are related to demonic beasts. They shouldn't be deliberately spreading false information. They risked their lives to bring this news out from the inner region. Moreover, the current situation is indeed very similar to the beast tide outbreak recorded in history." Leng Shiqi naturally didn't believe it in his heart, but he still nodded, indicating for Yang Jingqi to continue. Since then, the demon-suppressing town has been in a state of panic. On the same day, a large number of spirit cultivators left the demon-suppressing town. Now, other than the local residents and the merchants, there are almost no spirit cultivators left in the city. Even the city lord's mansion has decided to seal the city in 3 days. The few of us originally planned to do a few transactions before leaving before the city was sealed, but we didn't expect to meet Senior. When Leng Shiqi heard this, what he cared about the most was not the sealing of the city, but another matter. He said, "Are there any experts from the Imperial Beast Abode and the Blood Beast sect here?" A trace of fanaticism suddenly appeared in Yang Jingqi's eyes. Senior may not know, but these days, the experts of the 2 sects have been coming one after another. Just the Spirit Pulse realm alone has dozens of spirit cultivators. There are also several Unity of Heaven realm experts who are on par with the City Lord. There are even rumors that experts above the 4 realms of Heaven realm have come to the demon-suppressing town. Experts above the 4 realms of Heaven realm? Leng Shiqi was also shocked. Now that the Spirit Pulse realm was a huge mountain blocking his path of cultivation, he could not imagine what kind of terrifying realm was above the 4 realms of Heaven realm. This made him think of Elder Mu and Elder Gu who brought him and Delta Origi to the Blood Cloak Pavilion. If such an expert really came to the demonic miasma mountain range, then there must be treasures in the mountain range that surpass the knowledge of mortals. Roar! Just as Leng Shiqi was thinking, the sound of demonic beasts suddenly came from behind. Leng Shiqi and Yang Jingqi's expressions changed slightly. He hurriedly said, "We're almost at the demon-suppressing town, and there are still demonic beasts coming out? Let's enter the city first." Then, the 2 of them ran without stopping. Not long after, they saw the towering city walls of the demon-suppressing town that were as tall as mountains. The city gate, which was originally bustling with people, was now empty. Only a few teams of city guards were patrolling nervously. When the 2 of them walked into the city and saw the empty plaza, Leng Shiqi couldn't help but sigh. More than 2 months ago, there were still countless spirit cultivators who were called demon hunters, gathered in the demon-suppressing demon city. Now, just the news of the possibility of a beast-tide riot was enough to make these demon hunters flee. It was truly ironic. Leng Shiqi looked around and suddenly realized that there was a huge wooden board in the middle of the plaza. There seemed to be many words written on it. Yang Jingqi's voice sounded out at the right time. "Senior, that's a notice from the city lord's mansion recruiting city guards." Recruiting city guards? That's right. After the news of the beast tide came out, things became more and more tense. A few days ago, the Thunder Fire dynasty mobilized 10,000 Scarlet Thunder Army to guard the demon-suppressing town. It's just that the Scarlet Thunder Army is too far away. I'm afraid it will take a few days for them to arrive, and the demon-suppressing town only has 2,000 city guards. Although the city guards are all spirit cultivator and there are many experts, there are still too few of them. Therefore, the city lord's mansion began to recruit city guards. As long as they are willing to join, they will be treated very well. But even so, almost no one will stay here at this time. Leng Shiqi's eyes lit up. He knew that there was an 80% chance that the so-called beast tide would not erupt in the demon miasma mountain range. With his own strength, it would be difficult for him to hunt demonic beasts in the mountain range. If he couldn't hunt demonic beasts, he wouldn't have the demonic blood to quickly increase his cultivation. However, the news of the recruitment of city guards made him think of a way. He immediately said, "Take me to the recruitment place." Chapter 204. When Yang Jingqi heard Leng Shiqi's words, he could not help but be stunned. He asked in astonishment, "Senior, don't you want to leave the demon-suppressing city?" Leng Shiqi said righteously, "We spirit cultivators not only need to cultivate the spirit qi of heaven and earth, but also need to cultivate our bodies and hearts. Now that the beast tide is approaching, if we don't step forward, who will protect the weak residents of the city?" Yang Jingqi looked at Leng Shiqi's boundless righteousness and found it hard to guess whether he was telling the truth or not. Thus, he decided to believe him for the time being. He probed, "But, in a few days, the Scarlet Thunder Army will be here. That is one of the most elite armies of the Thunder Fire dynasty. It doesn't matter if the two of us are here or not. Don't worry, because of this, we won't be in too much danger even if we join the city guards. Moreover, with this old man here, I can guarantee your safety. Let's go." Leng Shiqi's final attitude was very unyielding. Yang Jingqi was helpless, his life was still in the hands of Leng Shiqi, he did not dare to disobey, and could only bring Leng Shiqi to the place where the city guards were recruited, which was the city lord's mansion. The city lord's mansion in the demon-suppressing city was completely different from the one in the Shangyang city. In the Donglin County, due to the existence of the Mountain Sea sect, a powerful and wealthy top force, the power of the spirit cultivator sect in the Donglin County was higher than that of the Thunderfire dynasty. Even in a small success like Shangyang City, not to mention the spirit cultivator sect, even the Three Blades Association and the Chinko Hall could contend against the city lord's mansion. However, it was different in the Eternal Peace County. Because of the demon miasma mountain range, there were no top forces in the world ranking. The Thunderfire dynasty completely controlled the Eternal Peace County. For a city like the demon-suppressing city, which was full of spirit cultivators, the city lord's position was held by a great expert of the unity of heaven and man realm. The selection of the city guards was also extremely strict. From their background, past experience, cultivation realm, talent, potential, and other aspects, they had to go through layers of selection before they could join the city guards. Therefore, the city guards were all elites with cultivation, talent, and methods. After all, their usual duty was to maintain the stability of the city. If they wanted to intimidate the spirit cultivators from all over the world, they would not be able to do so without some strength and methods. Now that the situation was special, there were almost no requirements for the recruitment of the city guards. As long as you were willing, you could join. However, when Leng Shiqi and Yang Jingqi arrived at the gate of the city lord's mansion, it could be said to be extremely desolate. Other than a few people setting up a table, there was no one else. At this moment, the thin man sitting at the table wearing the light armor of the city guard saw Ling Shiqi's group arrive. He sensed that they were both at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm and immediately got up to greet them. I am Wei Hongyi, the corporal of the third guard of the demon-subduing city. May I know your names? Ling Shiqi secretly probed and found that he couldn't see through this person's cultivation at all. He replied, I am Lu Xingji, and this is my young friend Yang Jingqi. We are here to join the city guards and contribute to the demon-subduing city. It's true. That's great. Wei Hongyi was originally just guessing. Now that he heard Ling Shiqi directly say that he wanted to join the city guards, he was naturally very happy. As long as there was one more person in the city guards, the danger they had to bear would be reduced. Moreover, he was on duty today, so anyone who was recruited would be directly under his command. Ling Shiqi said again, I just don't know what the conditions are for joining the city guards. Wei Hongyi waved his hand, both of you are at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. If you are willing to help the demon-subduing city at this time, the city guards will welcome you. However, I still have to record your information. This way, please. Wei Hongyi led Ling Shiqi and Yang Jingqi to the table next to him and handed over a piece of paper. The contents of the paper were some basic questions. Ling Shiqi picked up the pen and began to write. After a while, they returned the paper to Wei Hongyi. He lowered his head and glanced at it a few times. Then, he revealed a look of surprise and looked at Ling Shiqi and asked, Elder Lu is a spirit cultivator? That's right. Does Corporal Wei not believe me? As Ling Shiqi spoke, a cold aura appeared under his feet. The people beside him suddenly felt a chill and shivered. Wei Hongyi saw this and laughed heartily. Elder Lu is thinking too much. From now on, the two of you are part of the city guards and belong to my third guard. Ling Shiqi immediately cupped his hands and said, Greetings, Corporal Wei. Yang Jingqi also said something in agreement. Wei Hongyi reached out to support Ling Shiqi and said, Elder Lu, I don't dare to accept this. Ling Shiqi knew that the reason Wei Hongyi was so warm to him was not only because he was at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm, but also because he was a spirit cultivator. Although a spirit cultivator's combat strength was not very strong before reaching the 4th level of the sky realm, they could play a vital role in group battles. Then, Wei Hongyi personally led Ling Shiqi and Yang Jingqi through the procedures, received the light armor and waist token of the city guards, and finally came to a courtyard. Wei Hongyi said, The two of you can rest here. These are all spirit cultivators that I have recruited. In the future, you will form your own guards, so you can get familiar with them first. Ling Shiqi nodded and said, Thank you, Corporal Wei. I still have duties to do, so I won't disturb the two of you. Ling Shiqi and Yang Jingqi politely said a few words and sent Wei Hongyi off. They walked into the courtyard and saw more than 10 people talking in the courtyard. Most of them were spirit cultivators of the spirit transformation realm. These people were the people who had been recruited before them. When they saw someone coming, they all looked over. When they noticed that Ling Shiqi was at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm, they all had different expressions. Among them, those in the pure spirit realm looked at each other and revealed a look of anticipation. The faces of two people in the spirit transformation realm sank. Ling Shiqi's gaze immediately fell on these two people. Their cultivations were also at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. At this moment, a voice rang out, It seems that there is one more candidate for the captain's position. Ling Shiqi looked at the person who spoke and was a little surprised. That person was actually Huyan Men. However, the current Huyan Men did not look simple and honest at all. Instead, he looked very shrewd. Ling Shiqi secretly remembered this person. When he thought about the captain's position, he understood everything. He kindly said, This old man is Lu Xingji. I have just arrived. I wonder how this old man became a candidate for the captain's position. Another person said, We will form our own guards. The captain's position will naturally be won by the capable. Senior Lu, Deng Li, and Ding Zhou are all at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. The captain will definitely be one of the three. Leng Shiqi nodded and said in a flat tone, "In that case, this old man will not decline the captain's position." Chapter 205. The moment Leng Shiqi spoke, everyone's expression changed, especially Dang Li and Ding Xiu. Dang Li was a young man with a thin face, unlike his name. He held a sword wrapped in rags in his arms and said with an unfriendly expression, "Old man, you're already so old. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue when you talk big?" Ding Zhou, on the other hand, was around 50 years old and a bit sloppy. His small eyes narrowed into slits as he said in a strange tone, "Still calling yourself an old man? Do you really think you're something?" These two people were originally competitors, but now that Leng Shiqi had stood out and acted so arrogantly, it made both of them look bad. They actually had a common enemy. Leng Shiqi said, "Oh, that little brother just said that the position of captain belongs to the capable. Could that be a lie? Humph. Arrogant. Let me see if you have the ability." Dang Li's face was filled with anger. He clenched his sword and looked like he was about to attack. Ding Zhou still narrowed his small eyes and remained unmoved. Leng Shiqi stretched out a finger and beckoned. Although he didn't say anything, everyone could feel the contempt in his voice. Dang Li was young and aggressive. He directly pulled out his sword and stabbed out. His sword was a bit strange. The body of the sword, including the hilt, was completely black. At first glance, it looked like a burnt stick. However, the sword energy coming from the sword was extremely sharp. It was quite rare in the spirit transformation realm. Leng Shiqi's left palm flickered with starlight, and a small light blue formation appeared in front of him. A huge sword made of ice emerged from the formation. Leng Shiqi pushed his palm forward, and then an enormous sword of ice that carried an extremely cold aura surged out from it. The giant sword of ice collided with Dang Li's black sword and let out an ear-piercing sound. Upon closer inspection, several cracks appeared on Leng Shiqi's giant sword of ice, but Dang Li's black sword was completely frozen. Leng Shiqi's hand seal changed and the giant sword of ice suddenly turned into a mass of cold air that was enough to block out vision. It was about to swallow Dang Li. Dang Li was still a spirit cultivator at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. Shocked, he quickly retreated, but just as he was about to move, a few stone pillars as thick as an arm suddenly appeared beside his feet, blocking his path of retreat. The dense cold air completely enveloped Dang Li. When the cold air dissipated, only a lifelike ice sculpture was left. Other than Yang Jingqi, everyone else was stunned at this time, but they immediately burst into exclamations. Spirit Mage. Spirit transformation realm spirit mages are so powerful. Subduing Dang Li in one move, I think there's no need to fight for the position of team leader anymore. It's not just subdued. Look at Dang Li, he still can't break through the layer of ice. If Senior Lu continues to attack, he will lose his life. Tisk tsk, no wonder I heard people say that the older a spirit caster is, the more terrifying they are. In fact, it was true. For a normal spirit cultivator, or more accurately, for a martial artist, middle age was the peak of their life. As one grew older, whether it was the body or chi and blood, they would gradually weaken. Naturally, their strength would also slowly decline. This was also the reason why Dang Li and Ding Zhou did not put Leng Shiqi in their eyes at the beginning. However, for a spirit mage, they were not afraid of the aging of their body and the decline of their blood. As long as there was no problem with their spiritual energy and mental strength, they would still be able to unleash their strongest fighting strength. In fact, the older a spirit mage was, the purer their spiritual energy and the higher their mental strength. Therefore, the older a spirit mage was, the scarier they were. Ding Zhou secretly curled his lips and thought that he was lucky that he did not act rashly. It was best to have Dang Li test the opponent's strength. However, he did not expect that this test would cause him to lose his chance to compete for the position of leader. Ding Zhou stood up straight and clasped his hands towards Lin Shiqi. Elder Lu's strength is outstanding. I am ashamed of my inferiority. His words made his position clear. At this moment, bang sound was heard. Deng Li finally broke through the ice layer. There was still a lot of ice on his face. Even though he used his spiritual energy to expel the cold, it still caused him to shiver. The way Deng Li looked at Lin Shiqi immediately changed. There was fear, humiliation, and a little unwillingness in his eyes. He left a goodbye and walked back to his room. Lin Shiqi thought to himself, as expected, he is still too young. Originally, Deng Li and Ding Zhou did not like Lin Shiqi. In the end, Deng Li was used as an example to others, leaving the impression that he was impulsive and rash. On the other hand, Ding Zhou had completely changed into a good person. He asked about Lin Shiqi's well-being. The difference between people was very obvious. Ding Zhou eagerly walked up to Lin Shiqi and said with a smile, "Captain, I will need you to take care of me in the future." Lin Shiqi shook his head and said, "This old man is not worthy of the title of captain. Perhaps in a few days, there will be someone stronger than this old man." Ding Zhou immediately patted his chest and said, "Of course not. Even if that is the case, I, Ding Zhou, will support Elder to be the captain." "Oh. Then I really have to thank Brother Ding. By the way, how about you introduce this old man to everyone here?" "I actually forgot about this. What a sin. Come, stand over here. This is Wang Lin, he is at the 6th layer of the spirit transformation realm. This is..." Ding Zhou enthusiastically introduced the other people to Lin Shiqi, and they all enthusiastically greeted him. If nothing unexpected happened, Lin Shiqi would soon be their captain, so of course they had to flatter him. When Ding Zhou introduced Huyan Men, Lin Shiqi looked at him a few more times, but he didn't say anything. He didn't use the aura concealing technique to hide his cultivation because he wanted to smoothly join the city guard and have a place in the city guard. When Huyan Men saw Lin Shiqi again, he found that his cultivation had soared from the 4th layer of the spirit transformation realm to the 9th layer of the spirit transformation realm. He guessed that Lin Shiqi had used some kind of method to hide his cultivation. His eyes lit up, but no one knew what he was thinking. After a while, Lin Shiqi got to know everyone. He also took out some pills and materials that he didn't need and gave them to everyone as a greeting gift. Everyone's enthusiasm toward him increased even more. Only Yang Jingqi's eyes twitched slightly. This was because he knew that the things Lin Shiqi gave out were from the robbers he had killed before. Lin Shiqi had first shocked everyone with his powerful strength, and now he had taken out some benefits. His position as captain would be secured, and things would go smoothly in the future. After that, he exchanged a few pleasantries with everyone. Ding Zhou acted as a guide again and helped Lin Shiqi find the best room to settle down in. Chapter 206. That night, Lin Shiqi didn't rest or cultivate. Instead, he sat in his room waiting for someone. Soon, there was a knock on the door. Lin Shiqi said, "Come in." The door was pushed open and a young man walked in. It was Huyan Men. Huyan Men looked at Lin Shiqi, who was sitting on the chair, and said, "Senior Lu knew I would come?" Lin Shiqi said, "It's just a guess. Sit." Huyan Men didn't hold back and sat across from Lin Shiqi. Senior Lu was at the 4th level of the spirit transformation realm 2 months ago. Now you're at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm? And you're an extremely rare spirit cultivator. Senior really hit it well. Lin Shiqi said, "Same to you. Little friend Huyan Men, if you have something to say, just say it." Huyan Men was stunned for a moment. He originally prepared some excuses, but he didn't need to use them. He simply said, "Junior came here to make a deal with Senior." "Oh? Let's hear it." Lin Shiqi revealed an interested expression. Huyan Men took out a thin booklet and placed it on the table between them. This is a secret technique that Junior obtained by chance. It's called the soul-splitting art. This secret technique can split your consciousness into two parts. One part can control the body while the other part can be immersed in the spiritual space. Senior Lu is a spirit cultivator and should know the value of this soul-splitting art. When Leng Shiqi heard this, his eyes flashed with a strange light. The power of a spirit cultivator's spirit technique was not only related to the strength of the spirit force, but also the strength of the spirit force. To increase the spirit force, one had to immerse their consciousness in the spiritual space and slowly refine it. This process required a long time of refinement to steadily increase the spirit force. However, a person's time was limited. As a spirit cultivator, they had to cultivate their spirit force and spirit techniques at the same time. Because of this, they had very little time to refine their spirit force. However, with the soul-splitting art, it was completely different. This way, they could split a part of their consciousness to refine their spirit force in the spiritual space. It could be said that his spiritual power was growing at every moment. However, there are drawbacks to splitting one's consciousness into two halves. For example, when Leng Shiqi first met Huyan Men, he looked like a simpleton and was always half a beat slower in everything he did. Overall, this soul-splitting technique was indeed extraordinary. However, Leng Shiqi did not think that Huyan Men was a spirit caster, so what was the part of his consciousness that he sent out? Leng Shiqi did not pick up the booklet. Instead, he asked, Huyan, what do you want? Huyan Men smiled faintly and said, what this junior wants is Senior Lu's concealment technique. Leng Shiqi thought to himself that this was indeed the case. The breath-holding technique was not a high-level secret technique, but it was very practical. Moreover, it could have unexpected effects at certain times. Exchanging the breath-holding technique for the mind-splitting technique didn't seem like a bad deal. However, Leng Shiqi was still puzzled. Huyan Men should be a disciple of a spirit cultivator sect. Then, he used the soul-splitting technique to hide his shrewdness and wanted to use the breath-holding technique to hide his cultivation. What was he trying to do? According to Leng Shiqi's understanding of spirit cultivator sects, their disciples should be eager to let everyone know how high their cultivation was so that they would be valued more. Huyan Men saw that Leng Shiqi was silent and thought that Leng Shiqi was not satisfied. He continued, Senior Lu, don't be too greedy. To a spirit cultivator, the value of the soul-splitting technique is comparable to a rank 4 spirit technique. What is Senior Lu hesitating for? This old man can accept this deal, but this old man still has a small condition. Leng Shiqi replied. Huyan Men frowned slightly. He was afraid that Leng Shiqi would demand an exorbitant price, but he still said, Senior, please tell me. Tonight's matter will only be known to the heavens and earth. It cannot be spread to a third person. This old man can see that Huyan Men is not simple, but people like him are often the ones who stir up trouble the most. I don't want to implicate this old man in the future. When Huyan Men heard this, he let out a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, Senior Lu, you worry too much. As long as this junior leaves this door, even if you beat me to death, I will not admit that I came to find Senior tonight. Leng Shiqi nodded and said, that's good. Little friend, please wait for a moment. Then, Leng Shiqi found a pen and paper in the room and wrote down the breath-holding technique. The two exchanged the breath-holding technique and soul-splitting technique and obtained what they wanted. Leng Shiqi looked at the small booklet in his hand. A line of words appeared in front of his eyes that only he could see. He knew that this soul-splitting technique was real, so he said, the breath-holding technique is not difficult to practice. With little friend Huyan Men's talent, you should be able to master it in less than an hour. Why don't you try practicing it with this old man to verify its authenticity? Senior Lu, why would you deceive this junior? There's no need to verify its authenticity. It's already late, so this junior will not disturb Senior Lu's rest. Huyan Men said politely. Of course, Leng Shiqi would not keep him and send him out. After returning, Leng Shiqi began to try to practice the soul-splitting technique. This secret technique did not have small success, large success, or great perfection. If you can learn it, you can learn it. If you can't, you can't. He directly used his skill points to learn the soul-splitting technique. Then, he began to experiment. Ling Shiqi sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. Shortly after, his consciousness arrived in a pitch-black spiritual space. He controlled his spiritual body to circulate the soul-splitting technique. A part of Ling Shiqi's spiritual body gradually split out. The size was only about 1/10 of the original body. Moreover, that small part of it still had its own consciousness and was wandering around. Then, Ling Shiqi left the spiritual space. He opened his eyes. If one looked carefully, one would notice that his eyes were missing a hint of shrewdness. Interesting, but if I split out too little, the speed of refining spiritual power will be too slow. Ling Shiqi whispered to himself. Then, Ling Shiqi directly split out half of his spiritual body. At this time, he looked a little dull. There was a hint of turbidity in his eyes. Ling 17 looked around. In his eyes, he could still see his surroundings very clearly, but there was always a kind of feeling that his head was heavy and his feet were light. He muttered, "What a strange feeling. It's a bit like I haven't woken up yet. I wonder if I can cultivate like this?" Thinking of this, Ling Shiqi immediately tried to practice the 7 Fiends art of blood slaughter. After a short while, Ling Shiqi opened his eyes and revealed a hint of joy. In this state, it did not affect his cultivation. In other words, he could cultivate spiritual power and refine spiritual power at the same time. Ling Shiqi's mouth raised into a silly smile. Then, he immersed himself in his cultivation. Chapter 207. On the third day, the demon-subduing city was sealed and the recruitment of the city guards was over. On this day, Wei Hongyi came to the courtyard to gather everyone. In the past 3 days, there was only one more person, so there were a total of 15 people standing here. Wei Hongyi gave an impassioned speech. A few of the younger people revealed excited expressions, but most of them just nodded perfunctorily. Wei Hongyi saw that it was about time and finally got down to business. "Everyone, you have all been together for a few days. I said before that you would form a guard and the captain's position would be decided by yourselves. Does anyone have a choice now?" At this moment, Ding Zhou stepped forward. Wei Hongyi saw that he was at the 9th layer of the spirit transformation realm and secretly nodded. However, he didn't expect Ding Zhou to say, "Corporal Wei, we fully support Elder Lu as our captain." "That's right, I also support Elder Lu. Elder Lu is highly respected, the captain's position should be his." "That's right, Elder Lu's strength is outstanding and he is kind. I admire him." Everyone else also supported Ling Shiqi. Only Deng Li stood on the side with an expressionless face. Wei Hongyi's expression suddenly froze. He wasn't surprised that Ling Shiqi could become the captain, but he was surprised that everyone else supported him so much. Ling Shiqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In the past 2 days, he had spent some time teaching the others how to cultivate their spirit techniques. He had dozens of spirit techniques at the peak of the spirit transformation realm, so he had a lot of experience in this area. His prestige in this small courtyard was really high. Wei Hongyi walked up to Ling Shiqi and said, "I didn't expect Elder Lu to be so respected. Since no one has any objections, I officially announce Lu Xingji as the captain of the 8th Guard. This is the captain's token. Elder Lu, take it." As he spoke, he took out a light silver token and handed it over. Ling Shiqi took the token with both hands and said, "Thank you, Captain Wei, and everyone else for your support. This old man is ashamed." Wei Hongyi said, "In the city guard, high positions have always been occupied by the capable." Elder Lu accepted it calmly. "Okay, everyone, follow me to the drill ground. The commander wants to see you all." "Senior Commander? The Grand Commander of the city guards wants to meet us personally?" Hearing Wei Hongyi's words, a few people suddenly exclaimed. Ling Shiqi also figured out the structure of the city guards these days. The highest power of the city guards was the commander Lei Yuanwu, who was in the realm of Gang's spirit realm. It was said that he was a relative of the royal family. There were also 2 vice commanders, both of whom were experts at the spirit aperture realm. Every vice commander had 5 to 6 Dekarches under their command, just like Wei Hongyi, who was a spirit pulse realm cultivator. Each Dekarch had 7 or 8 captains under them, and they were usually spirit cultivators at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm. Each guard had around 20 people. There were about 2,000 city guards in total. At this time, Wei Hongyi put on a stern face and said in a deep voice, "The Grand Commander usually dislikes people making a fuss. You are new here and don't know the rules. When you see the Grand Commander later, don't speak carelessly." When those people saw that Wei Hongyi was a little displeased, they immediately fell silent. Then Wei Hongyi took Ling Shiqi and the others to the big drill ground in the city lord's mansion. When they arrived, there were already a lot of people gathered here. At a rough glance, there were more than 1,000 people. These people were all wearing silver light armor, and they all stood in an orderly manner. There were obviously a lot of people gathered here, but no one spoke. They could only hear the light footsteps of people coming from all around. Wei Hongyi once again gestured for everyone to be silent and led them to stand at the side of the drill ground. Ling Shiqi looked around and found that more than 70% of these city guards were spirit transformation realm cultivators. Only a few of them were in the pure spirit realm. These people either had status or talent. He couldn't help but think of the city guards of Shangyang City. As the Grand Commander, Zhong Linkai was only at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm. There were even some ordinary people in the guards below. They were all city guards. The gap between them was like the difference between clouds and mud. Not long after, all the city guards arrived. A man with a square face and a very serious face walked over accompanied by 2 people. He was the Grand Commander of the city guards of Demon Suppressing City, Lei Yuanwu. Wei Hongyi and the other sergeants all half-knelt on the ground and shouted respectfully, "Greetings, Grand Commander." "Greetings, Grand Commander." The others also saluted. Lei Yuanwu nodded lightly. Only then did everyone stand up. His deep voice sounded, "Today, I will only say one thing. Tomorrow, go out of the city to clear out the demonic beasts." His words were concise and comprehensive, but they were even more shocking. Especially those who had just joined the city guards in the past few days. The reason why they joined the city guards at this time was not entirely to protect their country. Most of them wanted to take the opportunity to make a living, and some wanted to gild a layer of gold. But they never thought that Lei Yuanwu would let them take the initiative to go out of the city to clear out the demonic beasts. One had to know that even the periphery of the demonic miasma mountain range was filled with rank 3 demonic beasts. What's more, everyone said that there would be a beast tide. At this time, instead of taking the opportunity to build defensive fortifications, they had to take the initiative to enter the demonic miasma mountain range. Besides, the Crimson Thunder army would arrive in a few days. Even if they wanted to take the initiative to attack, they had to wait until the Crimson Thunder army arrived. Was the Grand Commander crazy? However, no one in the drill ground said a word. Obviously, they had been told before. As for the original city guards, they did not dare to disobey the Grand Commander's orders. Ling Shiqi was delighted. The purpose of joining the city guards was to use their strength to enter the demonic miasma mountain range and secretly refine the demonic blood. Now that Lei Yuanwu had such a plan, it was really what Ling Shiqi wanted. It saved him a lot of effort. Lei Yuanwu was very satisfied with everyone's reaction. He then said, "I know you have a lot of doubts. I will only say one thing. I will not let you die. Vice Commander Qiao will tell you the details." The old man in luxurious clothes behind Lei Yuanwu stepped forward and said the specific mission of clearing out the demonic beasts. Ling Shiqi understood when he heard Vice Commander Qiao's words. The main mission of clearing out the demonic beasts this time was to test the demonic beast's strength. First of all, they had to occupy a place within 10 miles of the demon-suppressing town as a buffer. At the same time, they had to see if the change in the demonic miasma mountain range this time would lead to a beast tide. Moreover, the third-ranked demonic beasts would naturally be dealt with by the masters of the celestial realm. The ordinary city guards only needed to hunt second-ranked demonic beasts. In addition, the materials obtained from killing the demonic beasts would belong to them. The city guards would even have additional rewards. At this time, everyone's hearts were at ease. Ling Shiqi had a different idea in his heart. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.